Good morning. How's everybody doing on this wonderful Wednesday evening? We're going to go into part 2 of the pre-foreclosure training. So for those that have not seen part 1, it is available for replay both on the Propelio Real Estate Software Tools group and on the Propelio YouTube channel. So go check it out in your favorite spot. But part 1 is available there. What were we discussing in part 1 of the pre-foreclosure training? We went through and basically discussed judicial versus non-judicial foreclosure. We also went through and discussed the different types of leads. We talked about credit leads. We talked about appointments to substitute trustees, notice of trustee sales, notice of defaults. We talked about lis pendens. We talked about all of these different types, what the actual foreclosure process was, going from, I missed a payment all the way to it's sold at auction. So those were all the things that we discussed in part 1. If you missed part 1, make sure that you go check it out. I'm going to give it a few minutes for people to get in here and get comfortable, but if you did get a chance to watch part 1 of this training series, please drop in the comments if you're here again today what your experience was with watching part 1 of this video. How you doing over there, Angie? How are you doing? Let's get this party started. That sounds like my kind of day. Let's get this party started. Make sure you share. Make sure you tag your friends if you think that they need to know some information about stopping foreclosures. I definitely want to be there for them. So for myself personally, I've been investing since about 2006, 2007. With that to be said, a very large majority of my properties that I acquired came through pre-foreclosures. That's one of the reasons why I speak on this topic so much. I have worked predominantly in a non-judicial state, meaning a due process deed of trust. We've got 3 particular pieces of paper signed at closing. These are the things we discussed on part 1. The first thing that you're going to be looking for is signing a real estate lien note. That lien note's going to have some sort of security instrument, either it being a deed of trust in non-judicial states or being a mortgage in judicial states. And the third piece being a deed to transfer the ownership of the home. Those 3 documents are what gets signed at closing, included with a bunch of additional paperwork. But if you did not understand what I just said when I was talking about the security instruments, the deeds of trust, the knowledge, all of those things, then go back through and watch part 1. Appreciate you tuning in. Excuse me if I said your name wrong, but Premise, Sammy, Jay, how are all y'all doing today? I appreciate everybody jumping in. Give me some comments real quick. Let me see who all's out here while I wait for the class to kind of settle in. I know that the notifications just went out over there on YouTube. How you doing, Alex, Andy? If you're looking for a link to part 1, just go back through on YouTube and search for pre-foreclosures Propelio, and you should be able to find part 1. That was aired last Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Appreciate it, Alex Reed, for dropping in that link over there on YouTube. I got quite a few of y'all in the house. Everybody introduce yourself. YouTube, Facebook, where are you at? Where are you dialing in from? If you did get to watch part 1, let me know. Are you in a judicial state? Are you in a non-judicial state? What type of documents were you looking for? Those were some of your homework items from last time around. But for all that to be said, and for everybody that's still tuning in, I am going to go ahead and start ramping this up and start getting into some of the details. So this class today is going to be starting with brainstorming. And I consider this to be one of the most important parts to your marketing pieces. I know, I've asked this question live on more than one occasion. I'll ask the question, hey, how long does it take to write a postcard? And I'll pause on that. I've got a little bit of delay on my cameras, but this is a question I ask often, and I want to see some responses from this. How long does it take to write a postcard? So when we're doing our marketing, one of the key things that I like to do is go through a brainstorming process, and that's exactly where I'm going to be starting out with today. Hey, Cherry. Hey, Brady. Brady, how you doing today, man? I haven't heard from you. Brady, Cherry, Chris, Milton, Mark, all of y'all. Hi, Nicole. How are you doing today? So I asked a question just a second ago. I haven't seen anybody willing to stand up and put their neck on the line to give me an answer. Is that the way we're going to be? Are we going to be shy tonight? How long does it take to write a postcard? Many times when I ask that question, I will get the answer back, and it normally is somewhere around less than 5 minutes. Okay, and I think for most people that would be an accurate assumption, less than 5 minutes to write a postcard. But let me add a little caveat to that. How long does it take to write a postcard that's designed to get someone to sell their house? that postcard likely takes me anywhere between 2 days to a week to knock out the first draft. And then I am in a constant reiteration of that marketing piece. Thank you, Bill. Bill says postcard takes 3 minutes. That is about the most common answer I get. Most people say under 5 minutes. I want everyone in here to realize that marketing is your number one job. You are a marketer first and foremost. You are a real estate investor second. If you fail to market, you will not have the opportunity to employ your trade. If you do not have the opportunity to employ your trade, you will not survive as a real estate investor. So on average, it takes me about, I'd say, a week to get my rough draft started. And then once I've got my rough draft started, I go through constant revisions that never end. I will revise that postcard for years and years and years because I find little things that I can change. My market is changing. I'm finding that my competitors are offering things differently. So I'm in a constant state of revision, but this all starts with brainstorming. So last week we talked about, what the foreclosure process was, judicial versus non-judicial, and we closed that out with who do we market to. Now I'm going to start out with how are we going to market to them, because I find that to be extremely important. So how am I going to market to these people? We're going to start with brainstorming. So this is often a very tough time for these sellers. What do I mean? Let me stop for just a second and let me say, what do I mean by brainstorming? I'm about to contact somebody that's in a distressed state of mind. They have a lot of problems going on in their life, and I want to put myself in their shoes as I am writing this postcard because I want to think like that person is thinking. I want to experience the emotions that that person is experiencing. So I'm going to try and write a marketing piece that really captures the state of mind that these people are in and helps pull them through the decision-making process of, I'm going to reach out to this person and give them a chance to save my day. Okay? That's what I mean by the brainstorming process. And I'll go through and explain how I move through that brainstorming process. So the first thing that I'm looking at is, who am I talking to? Whenever I look at who am I talking to, I'm looking at the person and they are in an extremely stressful period of time. What got them into the situation that they're in? How long have they been dealing with creditors? Do you think they're behind on just their house payment, or is it possible they're behind on their electric? Is it possible that they're behind on their water? Is it possible they're behind on their car payments? Is it possible they lost their job? Is it possible that they didn't eat today? Those are all very high probabilities of things that could be going on in this seller's life right now. So when you go to write your postcard, I want you to think through, what is the state of mind of the person that we're dealing with right now? Okay, it's often a hard time. So moving forward from there, can you imagine how they are feeling? Most of the time, and I've been on the phone with a lot of pre-foreclosure people, they are embarrassed of the situation that they're in. Nobody's growing up saying, man, I can't wait to get my first foreclosure. No one's going through that thought process. No one thinks that the day that they sit down at the title company and they're excited about their new home for their family, that they're about to go through a divorce, they're about to be widowed by their loved one and then stuck with a home that they can no longer afford and in a situation that they never imagined to be in. This is an extremely stressful period of time for these people, and your marketing should take that into consideration. Think through some of the stresses that they have, and I'm going through all of this, and as we get towards the end, I'm going to wrap all of this into a nice little package as to how I work through and make these things happen. So looking on, what else do we got here? I often find that these people feel helpless. They have already tried to stop the foreclosure on their own accord. They have already spoken to a real estate agent, a real estate investor. They've talked to their title company. They've talked to a mortgage company. And every time they turn around, they feel like they get hit with dead ends. They don't know the right questions to ask. And they find themselves in situations that leave them feeling hopeless. I try to make sure that when I'm working through the details with these people, that I inspire hope that they're not in a lost position. I always try to make sure that I work through with these people and help them through the hard times that they're finding right now. I find that being an educator first and foremost has done a very good job for me on pre-foreclosures. Carmelita, I think I said that right. Humanity in marketing is important. I believe that is absolutely true. And the better you get at being able to resolve objections, resolve fear, resolve some of those stressful types of things right up front in your marketing, the higher your response rate will be. Like if I just send out a postcard to a seller that's in pre-foreclosure and I'm like, I can buy your house fast, quick, cash. Might they call you? Yeah, but they get 50,000 of those postcards in their inbox. Like when they go out to their mailbox and they open it up, there's going to be 100 postcards there. And this is not an exaggeration. If you're in a major metropolitan area, the likelihood of this person getting within the first 24 to 48 hours, 100 postcards in their mailbox is a very high probability. Now, people might immediately hear that and be like, well, why am I even doing this? Why am I, like, if there's 100 postcards in the mailbox, why am I even bothering doing this? Well, out of the 100 postcards in that mailbox, they are likely going to call 4 or 5 of them. That means you've got about a 5% chance if you're one of those postcards. 5% chance means if you sent to 20 different houses, there's a reasonable chance you might get a phone call. Does that make sense? When I break it down to statistics, statistically showing they're going to call 5 people. If they call 5 people, then I've got, what is that, a 5% chance? Well, if I send that to 20 different houses, then I have a high probability that one of those 20 houses is going to call me back. I truly believe that the marketing copy and the way that you write your marketing is going to greatly change how many people call you back. Does that make sense? How's everybody doing tonight? Is everybody seeing this this call? Is this all coming in good? I got Bethany over here. I got Tang, Mark. How are all y'all doing? Tam, we got you over here. Thank you for the 2-minute. Robert Rodriguez already giving me some fire. Eduardo, glad that you're enjoying this. Nicole, thank you for the 1-minute response. What I'm trying to get out of every one of y'all, though, is the realization that your marketing is a living, breathing piece of art, and you're never finished with it. And this brainstorming process should help you work through that. So if y'all are hearing me okay, if everything's going good, if y'all want me to keep going, keep those comments coming in. I can see that y'all are engaging and enjoying. So I'm going to keep going through here. All right. Where was I at? Okay. So these people are often feeling helpless. Whenever I move forward from there, wrong controller. What brought them to their current situation? What brought them to their current situation? I find this to be very important in the marketing process. We're going to call this our avatar. If y'all have never heard of the term avatar is essentially our made-up person that's in pre-foreclosure. What are some of the reasons why someone might be in pre-foreclosure? Those are some of the brainstorming activities you should go through yourself anytime you pick a new person to target. If you're targeting, let's say, vacancies, if you're targeting probates, if you're targeting pre-foreclosures, if you're targeting absentee owners, each one of those is a different avatar with different pain points. Could you imagine that somebody that's looking at probate might have a different mindset than someone that's an absentee owner? And do you think that an absentee owner might have a different mindset than someone that's in pre-foreclosure? Absolutely. I believe that all of this is important, and therefore each one of your marketing pieces should be tailored specifically to that motivator. Well, with pre-foreclosures, what do you think brought them to their current situation? Why do you think that they are in pre-foreclosure? I think we can automatically assume that one of the potentials is that these people, guess what? They lost their job. That's a really high up there on the list of probabilities for somebody that is in pre-foreclosure. For some reason or another, they have lost their revenue. If they have lost their revenue, then not only is their house likely in trouble, but their car and all of their other bills likely suffering as well. What other types of things might have brought them to this current situation? You know what? Oftentimes I have found in my pre-foreclosure marketing that a decedent in the chain of title will often lead to a pre-foreclosure. When the owner of a property dies, the property often falls into foreclosure because the heirs that will be inheriting the property often don't have the funds to keep their house payments up as well as their deceased loved ones' house payments up. So we're talking about losing a job. We're talking about death, oftentimes divorce, medical hardships. These are all things that lead people down this path. Now, what I want for you to do, and I'm not going to do this brainstorming exercise for you, I need you to go through your homework and sit down and say, what are all of the possible reasons why this person is in the situation that they're in? And this will help getting you start putting yourself into the mindset of the person that you're going to be speaking with. Not only will this help you in your marketing, this will also help you with your negotiations, because when it's time to sit down and speak with these homeowners, guess what? You're going to be speaking with your avatar. You're going to need to understand what your avatar is thinking. You're going to need to understand how that person is perceiving their current position in life. This will help you when you are sitting down on the couch with these people at 9 o'clock at night, trying to talk them through their financial situations that's currently going on in their life. When they're sitting down saying, I haven't worked in 6 months. I don't think I'm getting another job anytime soon. I'm really stressed out about the fact that I have nowhere to go. I have no income to get somewhere. I don't have any family here locally. I have no clue what's going on. I'm ready to just give up on life. If you're going to focus on marketing to pre-foreclosures, you better work on your social skills. You better work on your social worker skills, because you're going to be wearing a hat of many different trades. You're going to need to help these people through these problems. Okay? So what brought them to the current situation? It's not always what you think. I know sometimes people's impressions are you know what? If I had a mortgage, I'd make that payment every month no matter what. There's no way I'd ever get behind on my mortgage. That's just being irresponsible. You should have a nest egg. You should have this. You should have that. And some people really bring about a negative thought process when they're approaching this. And I want to wake you up to some serious things that can go on in these people's lives that are completely out of their control. There are plenty of times where I'm dealing with people in pre-foreclosure. The situation that they're in is completely outside of their control, and there's nothing they could do about it. For instance, what happens if you're driving down the highway and you get into a severe medical accident? You get into some sort of accident. You're now in the hospital. You're in the hospital for 3 months, 4 months. There's no way you can work. Let's say you did have a small nest egg saved up. That nest egg's disappeared on you. You never expected to be stuck in a hospital for 3, 4, 5 months. And now your life is completely turned upside down. The house that you've been living in for the last 18 years is going into pre-foreclosure, and you're stuck with your children, unknowing of where you're going to go, unknowing of where your children are going to go to school, and not certain where the next money is going to come from. I know that situation is real because I lived through it. I watched my dad when I was 13 years old get into a life-changing accident that destroyed his body, completely shattered his pelvis, left him unable to work for the rest of his life, and stuck on an opiate addiction that got started from that accident. All of that is experiences that I've personally went through, and since I've gone through them, I have a better understanding of the situations that these people are facing. I know what it's like to have the sheriff knocking on my door saying, hey, I'm taking you and your kids out of this house. Okay? These are real. This is the situations that these people are facing. So when we go to market to them, try to be aware of these situations. I'm going to pause for a second, see if I've got any comments coming in. Carmelita, thank you very much for engaging in this and staying in this. I'm trying to take a look over here, see if I got anything coming in from Facebook. I've got any questions coming in. What if they have nowhere to go? Great question, Sammy, and we will actually be discussing that in this class today. Getting deported, Jesse, yes, a very, very unfortunate but realistic answer to what's going on. A family member got deported and now they're stuck. These are bad situations to be in. I'm going to keep going through real quick. Poor financial literacy, Dulce. That is the common, not a common, but that does happen to be the case at times. And I'll talk more about that as we go moving forward through this. All right. I'm going to try and keep an eye on questions. So if you do have questions, I'm going to try and get them answers that I move through this. But I don't see any other questions coming in. If I missed it, drop your question again. I'm going to go on to the next slide. All right. What problems are they facing? Put yourself into their shoes. Like, what problems do you think these people might be facing? How am I going to feed myself? How am I going to get a job? Where am I going to move to? Are my kids going to be able to stay in this school district? You really need to think through all of this. And this is like a 2 to 3 day project for me. I'm going to sit down with my big whiteboard and I'm going to put some columns out there. And it's like, I'm going to start answering all these questions. And I'm going to try and drop all of this down because I want my mind to move into their shoes. Why is that important to you? If you spend this much time thinking about who you're going to be talking to, I can assure you that when you are talking with them, you will be much more fluid with your conversation because you've already had this conversation in your head thousands of times in the past week. You will have a better ability to move through objections and or discover objections because you've already thought through what the objections could be. Like, these people will oftentimes be like, I have no clue where I'm going. I have no money to move. I don't know where I can move to. I don't have any place to live. If you already know that these are likely objections and you've already worked through the process of solving those problems, then what you have done is put yourself in a really strong communicative position. So that way, when you are on the couch, you are already prepared for some of these objections. And when you hear key terms such as like, I just really don't know where I'm going to go, as soon as you hear that, boom, guess what? You've already thought of that problem. Not only have you already thought of that problem, you've thought of how to solve it. And if you've thought of that problem and you've thought of how to solve it, the second you hear that and you're sitting down on the couch, you can address it right then and there. You can start working through it. And that's what we're going to do also in today's conversation. So moving forward, where else are we at? What else do we got here? What problems are they facing? Put yourself into their shoes. I cannot stress this enough. This will make you a far better communicator when you are dealing with these people, because at times these people will have their own unique experiences that you're going to have to deal with. The exact same way that you would have to think through a conversation with an executor or an executrix or an administrator of an estate or something like that on a probate lead. Those people are dealing with a very specific problem. You need to have your head in that mental space. Okay? How can we help these people? Really, at the end of the day, this should be your primary thought process. How can I help these people? I personally struggle with being a real estate investor that only has one thought in mind, and that is, how can I maximize my profit on every deal I do? As a business person, that makes sense. As a business person, saying maximize profit is wise. As a human being, I don't think it is. Because I can maximize profits in a lot of ways. I could rip tons and tons and tons of people off, and I could make a ton of money doing it. And guess what? There will be opportunity to rip people off in these situations. But we are real estate investors. We are not con artists. We are here to help people. Although we have to make money doing this, there is nothing wrong with calling up and having a phone call with a lead where you realize that their best option is not to work with you, and advising them not to work with you. I believe that everybody on these calls right now watching will also understand that, and that they will not take advantage of these sellers. And that's why I'm teaching y'all today, because I know there are no con artists watching this show right now. There is plenty of opportunity to do this business and do this business right. And we do not need to take advantage of people to earn our money. So I'm going to keep that in mind as I move forward with this. How can we help? I like to start with educating them. There are multiple ways to stop a foreclosure, 12 of which I am aware of. I'm going to discuss all 12. That's 5 plus 5 plus 2 more. 12 ways to stop a foreclosure. I'm going to discuss not only what those 12 ways to stop a foreclosure are, but how I will work through educating the seller on those 12 different ways, so that when I am on an appointment with these people, that they can start self-selecting their options for getting themselves out of this foreclosure. Okay? So, moving forward, we can provide solutions that meet their needs. The who, what, where, why, and how. What objections may they have? Here are some of the objections I get very often with pre-foreclosure sellers. I owe more than my home is worth. For anybody out there watching right now, why as a real estate investor would I ever go after a property that they owe more than it's worth? Well, remember, we're real estate investors. We are not wholesalers. Please stop calling yourself a wholesaler. Please get outside of that box of wholesaling. You will never retire as a wholesaler. You have to buy, own, and move assets. Part of that is being a real estate investor, and I need you to think outside of the wholesale box. If somebody owes more than their house is worth, I have two options. I've got many of options, but the two most prominent ones being, I can short sale the house. If I can get the bank to accept less than what the house is worth, less than what's owed on the house, and I can get that value down low enough that it makes sense for me as a real estate investor, I can now purchase that property because I have been able to create the equity I need through my negotiation skills with the bank. So that's option number one. I can short sale it. Option number two is I could set up some sort of creative financing terms where I leave the deed in, or I leave the loan in place. I make the loan current, and I take over the house payments from that point moving forward. That would be called subject to investing. Those are two options that you could use when the homeowners owe more than what it's worth. How am I going to incorporate that into my marketing, though? If I know that a common objection that I'm going to deal with is that they owe more than it's worth, how might I overcome that objection on my postcard? I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now exactly what my postcard said, almost verbatim. I don't have it sitting right here in front of me, but I'm going to give you a very good understanding of what it was. Okay, the very top line on the postcard, the biggest, boldest print at the very top of the postcard said something along the lines of, "We can stop your foreclosure, even if you." So that's line one, and then the very next line underneath it, like the sub headline, would say something like, even if you owe more than it's worth, I've reviewed the file and this process should be easy. All right. You following that? Now, you don't have to go out there and use the exact same thing, but my very top headline said something along the lines of, "We can stop your foreclosure." That's a very definitive response. It's not, "I might be able to stop your foreclosure." It is a full-blown, "We can stop your foreclosure. I can stop your foreclosure." And then the subheading to that said something along the lines of, "Even if you owe more than your home is worth, and I've reviewed your file and the process is easy." Okay, so right there, right out of the gate, if I know that one of my common objections that I always get with the pre-foreclosure is that one right there, I owe more than my home is worth. If somebody receives 100 postcards in their mailbox and they call the first two, and the first two are like, "Oh, you owe more than your home is worth. I'm not going to buy that. I'm a wholesaler. I need steep discounts because I don't understand creative financing, because I haven't explored the Propelio Academy, and I haven't learned from Grant Kemp over there at creativecashflow.com how to do subject to investing." Well, guess what? That means when they call postcard number 3, or they see postcard number 3, what does postcard number 3 say? It says, "I can buy your house even if you owe more than your home is worth." What do you think the probability of that seller calling you now that they see your postcard and they know that you can handle one of their objections? Okay? Are you starting to understand why I wanted to go through this brainstorming process? Because I find it to be very important to your marketing dollars. The better your marketing is, the more return on that investment you're going to get out of your marketing, and the more you tune that marketing piece to increase your return rates, you will quickly find that your deal volume starts going up. Okay? So what's another objection I get quite often when I'm doing pre-foreclosure marketing? Another objection I get very often when I do pre-foreclosure marketing is very straightforward. I have no clue where I'm going to be moving to. Like, where am I going to move? Well, you got to think about it. These people are in a tough situation. They likely don't have an income stream. They likely have no money sitting in their equity, nowhere. There's no bank somewhere with their money in it. When you really start thinking about this, where are they going to move? It's fair for them to be scared of this. Like, I have no clue. Once this house gets sold, I'm homeless. Okay? Now try thinking through that stressful situation for yourself. Now, if you are a father or a mother, try throwing on the added embarrassment of that conversation with your children when you have to sit down and say, "I cannot afford this home. I do not know where we're going to move to. I am sorry, but you're going to have to go live with your grandparents. You're going to go have to live with your uncle or aunt, or you know what? You're going to have to move into the back of the minivan with me because I have nowhere else to go." Could you even come close to imagining how stressful this is for these people at this point in time? This is not your opportunity to take advantage of people. This is your opportunity to be a shining light of wisdom to help guide these people through this situation. Okay? But if I know that an objection that they're likely going to have is, "I don't have anywhere to move," how could I address that in my postcard? Okay, one of the very first things I might put in my first sentence of my postcard. I'm not going through and telling you exactly what this is. I need you to become a marketer. I need you to embody this thought process so that way you get to become the best version of you. Me sitting here telling you exactly what I do doesn't really teach you the process to become who I have become through my own research. So I might throw somewhere maybe in that first paragraph, in that first sentence, I know this situation might be stressful, but we are professionals that have have massive amounts of knowledge on foreclosures. And with that to be said, we can assist you with moving into a new home or finding someplace else to live. I butchered that. I would not have put it down exactly as I just stated it. But do you see how I could start wording that into my postcard to handle objections before I ever even get a phone call? Because if I know that the person's sitting at home scared, uncertain of where they're going to go, and I show them a pinhole of light as to an option that will give them some place to move to, they might just call me because they want to deal with that problem that they haven't solved yet. These are the types of things that I'm trying to get you to think through right now. And while this stuff might sound a little boring, if you're getting bored, please raise your hand. If you're loving this, drop some fire emojis or something like that. I really am trying to not just sit here and give you the fluff. You can get fluff anywhere on Facebook. You can get fluff anywhere on YouTube. I'm telling you right now, you can get some really fluffy stuff out there that sounds great, but it's not truly actionable. Sit down and do this type of stuff. That is exactly what you're going to be getting today. I want you to be able to walk away from this and have a very strong understanding by the time you finish this 4-part series. If you missed part 1, go watch that on YouTube or Facebook on the Propelio group. But by the time you're done with this 4-part series, you should have enough confidence that you're not nervous when you're dealing with a pre-foreclosure seller. Okay, what else objections might be? I'm just going to let the bank take it. I get that one often. I will have a seller just be like, you know what? I'm just going to ride this to the foreclosure auction. I don't care. Let the bank take it. Just let the bank take it. That right there is something I actually enjoy hearing. That tells me that they have already disconnected from the property emotionally. They no longer care about who owns the property. They're done with it. That is a very good thing for me to hear. And I do hear it often. So what I might put in my marketing, since I know that that's an objection, they're not even going to call me. They're not even going to call me. They're just going to let the bank take it. So I'm going to put on my postcard somewhere prominent, possibly in bold letters or a subheading or something along those lines. If you have never heard of this, I'm going to share something with y'all both today. Give me 2 seconds to Google this because I find this blog article to be so important that I want to share it with you. Dual readership path. Let me see if I can find this blog for you real quick. Let me make sure. I really want to find this for you. There's a blog article, and I found it. This blog article changed how I do all of my marketing. And I'm going to drop this in the comments here on Facebook. So, boom. So Facebook guys, check out that link I just gave you. YouTube, I got a link coming your way right now. Okay, glad to hear, Carmelita, you're in the right place. Tequila, nice to see you here. Alex, good to see all y'all here. Mortgage Medic, Brady Durr, thank you for all tuning in. I just dropped y'all a link over there on Facebook. I just dropped a link to something called dual readership path. When you're dealing with a postcard, when you're dealing with people, I'm gonna take 2 seconds to sideline on this because I think this is very important for anybody doing marketing. 99% of y'all, I'm going to ask y'all a question right now, and most of y'all aren't going to answer because I've come to the realization that whenever I ask questions, most of y'all ignore me. So with that being said, I've got close to 50, 60 people watching right now. I would expect 50 to 60 people to respond, but I would be willing to bet maybe 5 people respond when I ask this question. When you get a piece of marketing in the mail, do you read the entire piece of marketing before you make a decision, or do you scan it really fast to pull out as much highlight information as you possibly can to decide whether or not it's worth reading the rest of it? The answer is that 99% of y'all likely do not read the entire marketing message before making a decision as to whether or not they're going to do anything with this business. You will scan it as fast as you can, try to extract as much prominent information out of it as you possibly can, and then from that point moving forward, guess what you do? You then decide whether or not you want to do business and then reread it properly. So if we all know that people are going to skim through it and they're going to scan it really fast, we need to design our marketing so that way someone can scan it and get the biggest nuggets out of it as fast as they possibly can. So whenever I go to skim this, the key points of it are I need a header. I need a subheader. I need highlighted words. I need bold words. I need words in italic. I need bullet points. And these bullet points, bold words, you might be surprised as to what they should be. If I ever showed y'all a copy of my marketing, you would be able to quickly read 2 sentences in a full page long letter. And it's all in bold. It will read. It will literally read like a sentence, the bold words. And the bold words will tell something that is very important to getting this deal done. Okay? So don't just go in there and make bold words like scared. All right? I'll put a big bold word because I want scared to be scary. Well, if I skim it and scared makes no sense, then you've done this wrong. So go through, read that blog article. Great resource for copywriting. Okay? So let me continue on through this. I'm just going to let the bank take it. Okay? So in my marketing, I might put something along the lines of, if you're already planning to just let the bank have it, why not put $5,000 in your back pocket first? Boom. All right? They're sitting here thinking, I'm just going to let the bank take it. I don't need to call any of these postcards that I just got in the mail today. But then they see your postcard and they see $5,000 on it. And they're sitting here starting to think, okay, I'm going to let the bank just take this, but wait a second. $5,000 might mean I can get me another boat. That might mean that I can go on a trip to Cozumel. All of those types of things. Carlos, the link is in the comments above you, probably about 10 to 15 comments above you. But they're sitting here thinking about how they can spend the $5,000, and now they call you up. Okay? If you can overcome objections in your marketing, you will do far better on your response rate. This goes through your phone calls too. Like, all right, I've already brainstormed all of this. I've already thought through all the objections. I've already thought through all of their whys, their fears, their whats, their nows. And since I've done that, once I have an opportunity to speak with the seller, I am in a much better position. Okay? What other objections might I come across? I already have it resolved. I know I've got Tang Nguyen that was watching. I don't know if he's still here, but he does a lot of door knocking. I'd be willing to bet that in all of the years of Tang out there door knocking, if he's ever hit pre-foreclosures, I almost guarantee, because it is a common objection that I hear all of the time, I've already got the problem solved. That is often keywords for, I'm embarrassed, I don't want to discuss with you my personal problems, please leave me alone. Okay? That is often code words for, I'm embarrassed, I don't want to talk to you about my problems, please leave me alone. All right, well, if I know that this is a common objection, I might throw something in my postcard that says something along the lines of, there are 12 different ways to stop a foreclosure, many of which you've probably never heard of. If you would like to discuss your options, even if you've already settled on one, the other options might get you paid more or give you more time in the home or something like that. I'm not sitting here giving you the exact verbiage of everything I'm saying. What I'm trying to get you to understand, though, is the very simple keywords of, they already have a solution, is code words for, more often than not, I'm embarrassed about my situation. I don't want to talk about my personal life with you right now. Now, if you can go through and help subside their concerns about their current situations, you will increase your ROI on your marketing. Okay? Does anyone know how to get county data from Dallas? Yes, just Google Dallas County pre-foreclosures, and they are all announced on their court website and available for download in bulk in PDF formats. Alternatively, you can get the pre-foreclosure data from Propelio.com. We do the exact same thing I just told you, except for I already go through, scrape all the files and put them into MLS, or excuse me, not MLS, but put them into Excel for you so you do not have to do it. Okay, let me go check and see what's going on over there at YouTube, see what those YouTube people are saying. Boom, boom, boom. Got some stuff coming in over here. All right. All right, let's take a look and see what else we got going on, okay? So, I already have it resolved. Those were just 4 objections. You guys are professional marketers with a specialty in real estate investing. And because of that, you're going to go home and you're going to take those 4 that I just gave you and you're going to find 5 more to throw on top of it. So that way, when you're on a phone call or when you're sitting on the couch with the seller, and you hear little keywords popping up that reminds you, it's like, oh yeah, that's an indication that they're having that problem. I've already thought of that problem. This is how I solved that problem. Let me help them solve that problem. Boom, you are leaps and bounds above other people around you. Okay? What do they want? This is an important question for you to ask yourself, especially when you are sitting in their shoes. Now, I'm going to take a segue and bounce back because I just remembered something. I sent y'all that blog, and I almost guaranteed believe that that blog actually tears apart a real estate investor's marketing. Yes, it does. I think that is funny. This is a copywriter's blog article, and they absolutely tear apart a company called WeBuyHouses.com. It just destroys them in regards to how poor their marketing is. WeBuyHouses.com is a national marketer that is basically a how do you say that? I don't even know what the hell to call them. But I think it's funny that that blog article takes a real estate investor's marketing and just rips their marketing apart from a dual readership path perspective because their marketing sucked. And when you're spending $40 to $60 to $1 per postcard and you're out here pumping that out on a regular basis, your ROI is important to you. I had to just double check that because I was pretty sure that this blog article absolutely just tore into WeBuyHouses.com. Okay, so coming back over here, I sidetrack a lot. If y'all have questions, hit me up. If y'all are enjoying this, please let me know. But I'm going to keep this going for you, okay? So, what do they want? This is a question that you should all be asking yourself. More money. Hands down, a lot of people, I don't think anybody out there right now would answer this differently. If I asked you, do you want more or less money? Most people that have any layer of logic in their mind are going to say, I want more money. So if I already know that that's something that they want, I should likely include that into my marketing somehow. One of the things that I put on my postcards is I have my hero, the hero being my headline. I have my subtopic. I have subheadings, headline 1, headline 2, headline 3, bullet points, closing statements. I have a call to action. I have several call to actions. And then at the very bottom, I have a postscript, like a PS. Almost everybody's going to read the postscript. And then at the bottom, I have an additional closing statement. And that closing additional statement is going to be bold, larger font. What I often had on my postcards, especially on pre-foreclosures, was something along the lines of, and I basically use this from Geico. Geico says 15 minutes can save you $15 or more, or something like that. Well, on the bottom of my postcard says something along the lines of, other people buy houses, I pay more. 15 minutes could make you more than $15,000. You know, I'd put something like that on the bottom of my postcard. I throw it out that, you know what, other people do buy houses. I pay more. And then I followed that up with 15 minutes could make you 15 grand or more. What's it going to hurt to call? You know, I try to get these people at the very last moment of that postcard, a last ditch memorable effort to get that person to call me. Okay? All right. I'm going to move on forward. All right. So, more money, a place to live. Where can we get these people a place to live? I actually believe that I solved this question further on in the slide, so I'm not going to get deep into it. But when I'm doing my marketing and I'm doing my brainstorming process, I need to think through situations on how am I going to help this homeowner into a new place to live. More time to resolve. You know what? I just need more time in the homes. I need 45 days to get my affairs wrapped up and out of here. I've only got 20 days left. I have no clue how I'm going to get this done in 20 days. I need 45 days to get this done. As a real estate investor, is that something you could possibly do? You could possibly get these people more time in the home. You could go through a forbearance agreement with the bank, getting the bank to agree to postpone the foreclosure. We'll talk more about that here in a moment. What else can we do? Protect their credit. You know what? Let's say they're 4 months behind, 5 months behind, and they got 5 30-day lates, 60-day lates, 90-day lates, all stacking up. Well, if we can get this foreclosure, if we can get these delinquent payments taken care of and fast, get this home sold, get the loan current, whatever we've got to do to get this thing done, we can start getting their credit back in a position where it can start getting on the upward trending cycle. Okay? Someone to help them. A lot of the times these people just need someone to help them. It is beyond an understatement. These people need someone to help them. Talking points and homework. I really want y'all to go home and do this brainstorming project on your own. I've kind of given you some of the highlights of some of the key things that I'm looking at, but you really should spend at least 3 or 4 hours with a whiteboard breaking all this down. Who am I talking with? What do they want? What do they need? You know, what are their objections? What are the reasons why they would never want to work with me? Does all that make sense? Sit down and try and spend as much of your time thinking through that, and then look at your postcard. Look at your marketing piece. Listen to your past phone calls when you're dealing with people in pre-foreclosure. Think through how those postcards, marketing pieces, phone calls could have been different if you had already had some of these things addressed either in your marketing or you were prepared for them in your conversations. This brainstorming exercise will drastically change how you, as a real estate investor, will market and work with people in pre-foreclosure, and it will definitely increase your closing ratios when you're going on appointments. Okay, so go home, do that brainstorming project, and try to revise your marketing to include that dual readership path, as well as some of the key points that I highlighted here on this specific show. All right, let me see here. Gonna go through, see if I got any implied investors are not as good as they are because we work from our cars. Carmelita, I think WeBuyHouses.com is one of the biggest shams out there. I think they're trying to compete with the ugly house buyers. They're trying to really kind of come up with a franchise model of done-for-you marketing. And overall, I really don't believe in the WeBuyHouses.com people at all, especially after I have seen their marketing pieces. They are supposed to be master marketers. I really think they are masters of doing nothing but getting money out of your pocket. Okay, so let me take a look at this. Okay, keep things going forward, moving forward. All right, what are we going to go through next? We're going to go through qualifying the lead. I've got homeowners calling me up. I need to decide, am I working with this person or am I going to pass this lead along? And this is an important piece to becoming a efficient real estate investor. In 2015, 16, 17, I was sending out anywhere between the low side of 5,000 postcards a month to the high side of about 25 to 30,000 postcards a month, depending upon what month it was, what was going on. Somewhere between 5 to 30,000 postcards a month going out. My inbound phone calls were somewhere around 300 to 500 inbound phone calls a month. With that taken into consideration, you need to become efficient with your processes. So quickly figuring out who is the best qualified to work with will drastically change how your day or your week goes. Okay, so let me move in on this. Who are we talking to? One of the very first things I always want to do when I get on a phone call with somebody is figure out what their name, number, and address are. Is this a good number to call you back at? Let me confirm your name real quick. And what's the address of the property I'm talking about? Those are things that I'm trying to get out of the person within the first 45 seconds to a couple of minutes. Okay, from there, I'm really just going to start asking open-ended questions to figure out why they're in foreclosure. One of the easiest ways to do that is to just ask them, what's going on right now? Why are you behind on payments? That simple question will normally open a floodgate of communication. Now, what am I doing while that floodgate of communication is going on? I am going to be listening for key objections that I've already discovered in the past. I'm looking for key wants and needs that I know of. And I'm looking for different things that I know in the back of my head will help tailor this conversation moving forward. But while I'm listening for those key points, I'm also doing a little bit of research on the property address that was just given to me. I'm going to look it up in public record. I'm going to look it up in the MLS. I'm going to pull it up on Propelio, find out all the property details, find out what the potential mortgage balance is, find out how long they've owned the home, see if I can find any existing pictures of the property available on the internet. I'm going to find out all this information, and most importantly, I'm going to find out what I think the home is all worth fixed up. Okay? I'm doing all of that. That's probably going to take me 2 minutes at most, especially if I'm using Propelio. And then from there, guess what? I'm going to let that seller just keep talking, and I'm going to be listening for those objections. I'm going to be listening for those wants and needs, so that way I can make that the subject matter that I discuss moving forward. So like if I hear an objection popping out, it's like, you know what? I have no place to go. Well, that's where I'm going to start steering the conversation so I can handle that objection right then and there over the phone. The better you are at handling objections, the better prepared you are at handling objections, the higher your close rate will be. Imagine if you've had this same conversation 42 different times in the past month with a seller that's concerned about where they're going to move to. You're going to be very fluid in that conversation. You're already going to have a stronger understanding of how to handle that conversation. So all of that taken into consideration, this is not a skip it over point. I think a lot of people get bored with the nuts and bolts details of these conversations that we have on some of these calls because they're wanting all of the hype. They're wanting all of the check out my Lambo, check out my Rolls Royce stuff. But when we actually start getting down into the nuts and bolts, this starts getting people bored and they're like, I don't want to do all this. Guess what? If you're wanting to be a real estate investor, everything I've been talking about for the last near hour is your job as a real estate investor. So if this doesn't sound appealing to you, you either need to have enough money to outsource it to somebody else, or you might want to consider getting out of the real estate investing space. I say that with nothing but love, but this is wholeheartedly some of the background work that you're going to have as a real estate investor. And many people don't talk about this because it's not sexy and glamorous. It's not look at how much money I made. This is how did I make that money? Okay. So moving forward, what else do we got? Find their why. If they're not accepting reality, you may need to help. I hate saying it this way. I really do. But there's really kind of two things going on, or three things going on. You've got the person that has had a life experience hit them that, how do I say that they just can't recover from. I mean, it hit them so hard that it's not one of those just bounce back kind of things. They're in a situation that they're not going to be able to get out of. Foreclosure's going to happen. You will find those people. There are other people you're going to find that are in a pre-foreclosure status and they get hit with this problem, and instead of addressing this problem straightforward, they turn into what I like to call ostriches, where they just bury their head in the sand and their sole entire thought process is, you know what? I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore this. I'm going to ignore this. Those type of people, you do need at times to really bring in a heavy dose of reality and hit them with a very hard hit statement. Something to shock them back to reality, because they're sitting here thinking, oh, I've got another 6 months here. No, the foreclosure auction is in 72 hours. You know what? That's important. You're losing this home in 72 hours. You don't got another 6 months to figure this out. You're not going to sit around and spend the next 72 hours thinking about what's going to happen. You need to make some decisions. You need to make some decisions quick. One of the guys that I listen to, I don't necessarily support the man, but I did get a fairly strong gold nugget from, which is a man named Phil Grove. I heard him say this once, and I've used it myself personally since then because I liked the way he said it. If you have a seller that is just absolutely refusing to pay attention to the reality that they're in, snapping them back to reality is probably one of the best things you could possibly do for them. So hitting them with something like, hey, I understand it. You're in this situation. The property's going to auction in 72 hours. It will be sold at auction. And when it is sold at auction, there's nothing you're going to be able to do to change that. You either have a chance right now to take control of your own reality, make some decisions that you're uncomfortable with, but you have to make. You either do that now, or the reality that you're facing is this property's going to go to auction in 72 hours. It's going to be sold at the auction. When the new buyer owns the house and they find out you're still living here, they're not going to be very happy with you. They're going to file out a forcible detainer suit. They're going to take you through foreclosure. When they take you through not foreclosure, they're going to take you through eviction. On the backside of that eviction, if you're still not out of this house, they're going to file a writ of possession. And when they file that writ of possession, they're going to get a sheriff to come out here, take you, your kids, and all your personal belongings in front of all of your neighbors, in front of all your friends, and stick it out on the front porch. Is that really what you want, or would you rather take your reality into your own hands today and move forward and put a little bit of your equity in your back pocket? Can anyone out there agree that was pretty harsh? But I can guarantee you every single thing I just said is reality. If they fail to make a decision prior to the auction, it will get sold at auction. The backside of the auction is either an investor and or the bank's representative coming to the house saying, hey, you need to get out. You refuse to get out, they're going to move forward with an eviction, and if you still don't move out, they're going to have a sheriff remove you from the home. These are all realities. I'm not fluffing anything up for the seller, but oftentimes until you hit them with that layer of reality, they will ignore the situation that they're in. Does that make sense? I hope it does. Okay? Let me check on what's going on over here on Facebook. Okay, Bethany, good to see you here. Christian, thank you for being here. Jesse, Don, thank you all for tuning in. Let me see where else we're going to go from here. All right, time is not on their side. A lot of these times, like if I'm in a non-judicial state, like Texas, time is definitely not on their side. If they're in a judicial state, such as Florida, Illinois, New York, California, time is on their side. So it kind of depends upon what type of state you're in. But I try to get these people to move forward with their thought processes quick, because even if they are in a judicial state where they might have 1 year, 2 years, 3 years for this foreclosure process to occur in, every much better situation to be in than walking away 2 years later with nothing in their pocket. Even though they got 2 years of free rent, I would have much rather had 50 grand in my pocket 2 years earlier and went out and bought something for free for 2 years and walk away with nothing. 50 grand now could buy you a really nice mobile home on some land. You know what? It might not be a Taj Mahal, but if I own the mobile home and I own the land and I paid it free and clear for 50 grand, I never again have to pay a mortgage for the rest of my life. That sounds a lot better than 2 years of free rent. So that's a way that you can negotiate through with these people that know that they might have a couple of years to be able to just chill in the house. Okay? If they are not motivated, neither are you. This needs to be very important for anybody watching this, especially as a newer real estate investor. I see this happen often. You will get a lead, and when that lead comes in, it's the only lead you've received in months, and you turn this into your life's mission to turn this property into a deal. If you get on the phone with somebody that's not motivated to do what's needed to get this deal done, unless you see a very good payday on the other side of it, you need to let that deal go and focus all of that effort that you would have otherwise focused on this file on finding the person that is motivated to work with you and get a deal done. Okay? Don't spin your tires trying to turn leads into deals when they're not deals. That is rookie mistake 101. Do not do that. Qualify it. If it fits your box, move forward. If it does not fix your box, refer it out. If you have no one to refer it to, wish them their best. But at the end of the day, you do need to focus on the people that you can provide the most help to. And if you don't, you're doing them a disservice. Okay? Focus on the people that want help. I've already stated that. I can't say that any better. Okay? If they're difficult to work with, be warned. This is extremely important. I've made this mistake more than once. I've made this mistake once and said I'll never do it again. And then the second time I did it, after saying I'll never do it again, you know, there was a really fat payday on the other side of a property. It's like, you know what? I could get a really good payday out of this. I could use a payday right about now. I've spent $64,000 in marketing in the last 60 days. I need to recoup some of that. This is a good deal. I'm going to move forward with it. Yeah, the seller's being difficult. I'm going to look past that. I know I've said I'll never do this again. I'm going to look past that. It's not going to burn me the second time. It burned me the second time too. If they're a difficult seller to work with, you might want to just cut bait right up front and move forward and go on to another deal. If you are dealing with a seller that is just looking to ruin your life, it can drag you down the hole and fast. If they are combative, if they are constantly trying to scam the bank, scam somebody, those are warning signs that they're likely going to try and scam you too. If they're sitting there trying to say, oh, well, let's do this with the bank. Let's tell them this, let's do that. And you know in the back of your mind that wholeheartedly, that's not good. That's not something you should be doing. I'm not going to tell the bank that. If they're trying to get you to do it for them, what's stopping them from doing it to you? Think about how they are acting. Think if they are making wise, ethical decisions. If they are not making wise, ethical decisions and they're trying to convince you to do illegal activity, how about I deed the house to you and then, you know what, I'll make some payments to you over time and then you just deed it back to me. Well, guess what? You may have just got yourself in a full-blown legal battle. Do not do this, okay? Think through this. Do not do anything under the table. Don't do anything scammy. It all needs to be on the up and up. But if they're trying to get you to do stuff like that, and or if they're just being extremely difficult and just completely and totally off the wall crazy, just walk away. Go somewhere else. If you can't work your way through it with the seller, walk away. That's my opinion. Okay? I like how Don Rich just said that. He said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I don't think there's any better way to say it than that. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. All right? So let's keep going. All right. There are some pretty sweet triple wides out there. Although I do not see triple wides very often, there are some sweet triple wides out there. There are quads and there are 5 wides. The biggest I've ever seen was a 5 wide mobile home. That is a whole new level of mobile home pimping right there. All right, let's see here. The wrong seller can ruin your day. Key things to determine as you move forward. Things we need to know. Has a sale date been set? All right, I'm on the phone with the seller. One of the things that I must extract out of that phone call is, has a sale date been set? You cannot count wholeheartedly on the answer from your seller, but if they do give you a very strong definitive date, such as, yeah, the property's scheduled to go to sale on the first Tuesday of next month, you have a reasonable understanding of what your urgency is, okay? Now, I always want some sort of proof of that. If they tell me there are no sale dates set, I'm going to want to double check and confirm by getting on the phone with the bank and confirming that a sale date has not been set. But I always want to at least ask this in my phone call. Has a foreclosure date been set? I also want to know who is foreclosing. Okay. It could be the bank. It could be the HOA. It could be the tax assessor. It could be a first position lien, a second position lien, a third position lien. There are several different people that could be foreclosing on this property. I want to know who it is, and I also need to verify what lien position is foreclosing. Is it a second position lien, third position lien, first position lien? These are important things for me to know. Okay, it'll address how I move forward with this property. Okay. I like properties that are underwater with multiple liens against them. I'm going to give you all a side nugget here. I'm going to take 45 seconds and discuss this. All right, I'm going to throw some numbers out. Many of y'all probably already got your pens and paper out here. I'm going to give you a real quick math quiz. All right, I've got a property that, all said and done with, is worth $200,000 in its present condition. No rehab needed. It's worth $200,000 today. They owe the banks, and I said that plurally, banks. They owe the banks $220,000. Okay, I have a first position lien that's worth $160,000, and I have a second position lien that's worth $60,000. Okay, first position's $160,000, second position's $60,000. Grand total of all liens $220,000. Property in its present condition is worth $200,000. Okay. I will immediately initiate a short sale if the first position lien holder is foreclosing, and I will try to negotiate and get that second position lien holder to accept $500 for their lien position. If you are not familiar with short sales or understand why I would take that approach, feel free to watch the short sales class in the Propelio Academy. Melody Medley teaches that. It is a free course. It's 6 videos long. What I'm going to do is I'll take that first position lien, and I'll say $160,000, and I will if that one's foreclosing, we know that second position lien is going to get wiped at sale. That second position lien is also aware that it will get wiped at sale, meaning that they will receive nothing other than any additional funds that were created at the sale. But what I can now do is use that position of knowledge and that position of power to tell the second position lien, hey, you're not in a good lien position. When the first position forecloses, you're going to get wiped out. I'm offering you $500 today. I'm not giving you $1 more. And I will oftentimes take a $60,000 lien and negotiate it down for less than $5,000. Well, for a property that's worth $200,000 in its present condition, the first lien position is $160,000. I'll pay the first position the full $160,000, and I will pay the second position. Let's just say it's $5,000. My grand total into the deal is $165,000, and I got an asset worth $200,000. That is a solid deal. Does that make sense? I hope so. Is everybody getting some good value out of this? Like, I struggle at times with doing these classes. I feel like either A, I'm going too deep on a topic, B, not going deep enough on a topic, or C, I am just not entertaining enough to keep y'all going during these shows. Do y'all need breaks during these, or is this format working well for you? If this format is working well for you and you feel like you are getting value out of this, please let your friends know that the Propelio Academy is out there, that Propelio TV is out there, and that we do these types of trainings on a regular basis. So just let us know if this is working for you, and I'll try and keep these things going. Okay? Got almost 90 people watching right now, of which I think maybe 4 of y'all will reply. And that's what really makes me disheartened about this. Like, I'm giving up my Wednesday evening and I ask a question like that, and most people won't even take the time to give me an answer. It really does make me wonder why I do this. Okay? Keeping it going. Going to the next one. Who is foreclosing? What are the arrears? This is an important piece for you to pull out of this conversation. Many times they may not necessarily know it, so I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna ask some very, very detailed questions. What are the questions I'm gonna ask? Okay, what are the arrears? The seller's not gonna probably know what arrears means, so I need to use a different vocabulary. Arrears are your past due payments. Where are there replays? Yes, Maurice, there are replays. This will be available both in the Propelio group as well as YouTube. Arrears is a word that my sellers may not understand. So what I'm going to ask for is a very clear-cut question. How many payments have you missed? That's a question that they can most likely answer. They'll say, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months, maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. I've dealt with people that hadn't made payments in 6 years. Okay, those types of people are out there. So I'm going to ask, how many payments have you missed? 3, 5, 10, 20. Okay. I will also ask them another question, like, do you have a recent mortgage statement available? You know, you've got all these letters from the bank. Could you pop one of those open for me real quick and tell me what your principal balance is and what your past due payments are? Okay, now I know what the principal amount of the loan is. More often than not, the seller's going to tell me what that is, and they're also going to tell me how far behind in payments they are. I need to understand this because I need to know what options I have available to closing this property. Remember I said there's 12 different ways to stop a foreclosure? Well, depending upon how much equity they have in this deal greatly determines what options are still available to them. You know what? If they owe $290,000 for a house that's only worth $30,000, the only option they really have to get out from under this is possibly a deed in lieu, possibly a short sale, and beyond that, the opportunities really get a lot slimmer. Now, stopping it, a seller does have the option of doing potentially a temporary restraining order, a bankruptcy, something like that. But your options do get shortened by the amount of equity that you still have in the home. Okay? Let's keep it going. How many payments have been missed? Okay, that kind of gets you down the same line of what are the arrears. And a good thing for you on the arrear side, remember that question I asked you about earlier where people are like, you know what, I've already got this handled? One of the things I will follow up with when someone tells me that is, how many payments have you missed? And if they'll throw a number out there. Let's just say they say 10 for easy math. All right, they say 10, and I'm sitting here in the back of my head, I won't even ask them. I was like, I'm assuming your house payments probably, and I'll take a look at the neighborhood and take a guess at it. I was like, I'll estimate that your house payment's probably around $800 a month for your principal, insurance, taxes, and insurance. And if you're 10 payments behind, you're about $8,000 in payments behind. Have you already came up with that money yourself? And I'll stop it right there. Because when they say they've already got the problem solved, I will follow it up with this type of situation. I'm going to ask, hey, how many payments are you behind on? And I'll do some real quick math in the back of my head. So you're around $8,000 to $10,000 behind in payments right now, right? Do you have a plan securing how you're going to get that caught up? And a lot of times they're going to reveal to me how they're planning on stopping this. So when they say they've got it stopped, I'll ask them, what are your plans for stopping? How do you plan to do that? And you know what? They may or may not answer that, but I'm trying to figure out exactly what they're trying to do, so that way I can move forward. Because more often than not, when someone comes with that answer, it is just an objection to get you to stop talking about it because it's painful for them. They don't want to talk about it. Okay. Don Rich just asked, what is the likelihood of getting a TRO approved by a judge? I've had some real estate investors act like the TROs are the simplest, easiest things in the world to get. I've had other investors say the exact opposite. I personally have only tried to get a TRO twice. Neither of the 2 times did I get it. And it didn't cost the involvement of a lawyer, and I paid a lawyer to get the TRO started, and it was not approved. So I did not have much luck with TRO. I've had plenty of other people, though, say, you know what, TROs have worked well for them. My experience has not worked well for me, but I'm not, once again, extremely experienced on it. I have not needed a TRO except for in those 2 particular situations. Okay? Live stream over there on Facebook. I'm going to look through here real quick, see if I got any questions coming in over here. There's some pretty sweet triple wides out there. Yes. Thank you, Bill. Good to go. Vortex. Some people consider using a trust to buy subject to as scammy. That right there is debatable. I've seen just both sides of the argument on that side. I think at the end of the day, that trusts really are not scammy, but some people do believe that they are. I know that even Grant Kemp doesn't like buying in trusts because he doesn't see a whole lot of value in them. And I'm getting off subject there, but I don't know. I don't really understand on that side. But yeah, some people do consider using trusts on subject to scammy. I personally don't use them on subject to, but at the same time, a lot of people do. So how many payments have been missed? What do you owe? That's another question I like to find out from while I'm on the phone call. Let me see, go back over here. I'm going to keep this going. And does the house need repair? From there, it really moves into your typical, this does move pretty much into your typical phone call from here, trying to extract from them their timelines, the amount of repairs, and everything else that's going on. But those first 4 or 5 are key ones that I'm looking for. Who is foreclosing is big. Okay, it's Wells Fargo. Are they your first lien? Do you have any other liens on the house? What position is the lien holder? These are the types of questions I'm going to ask and then verify. I don't ever, and I can't stress this enough, I do not ever depend solely on the word of the seller. I want to verify it all with the bank. I want to verify it all with the foreclosing attorney, the trustee, the banks, everyone involved. I'm going to have this conversation multiple of times. Okay? Are you ready to sell? This is a good one for you to help figure out. Like, if their sole answer is, no, I want to keep the home, right off the bat on the phone call, if I feel like that this person's being realistic, this person's being rational, and they're telling me no, that they're looking for more time in their home, that's when I'll start discussing some of the options that are available to this person that will allow them to stay in their home. You're like, okay, maybe you can form some form of repayment plan. Maybe you can go through some sort of loan modification. Maybe you might be able to go through a short refi, or maybe you might be able to go through and just go through a refi period. Some of these things might be allowing you to move forward and stay in the home. Are there potentials for you selling some sort of personal item to get some cash to catch up on your past due payments? Are there any options of borrowing some money from a friend or a loved one so that way you can get their payments caught up? And if I go through all these alternative processes that will allow them to stay in their home, and I've exhausted all of them, let's say there's 6 of them, and I've gone through the 6 that I'm aware of that will allow this person to stay in their home, and I've had this discussion with them, is it fair to say that a logical person, when we've gone through all of these potential scenarios for saving their home and they came to their own realization through all of the past that have been presented to them? I don't try and hide anything from a seller. I am never one that's like, man, this person could probably sell this on the MLS right now in less than a week and make a really good bit of money off of it. I'm not going to tell them that. No. Your goal is to be a real estate investor, not a con artist. Okay? If they're wanting to stay in their home and you know of a situation that can get them to stay in their home, your duty is to reveal that situation to them. And if they choose not to go forward with that situation, good for you. You get to buy the house. But you should never withhold information that could truly save this person's day at the end of the day. So are you ready to sell? Let's say I go through 6 or 7 options that I'm aware of that this person might be able to exercise to stay in their home. And at the end of all 6 or 7 of these potential ways to stay in their home, the end result is they said, okay, I can't do that one. I don't have enough money. I don't have anybody I can borrow money from. I can't do a short refi. I can't do a refi. I don't have any money in a car or jewelry or anything like that. You know what? I don't have an extra car that I can sell. Once they've kind of gone through all of that, they've started telling themselves what? I'm not going to get to save this home. I'm not going to get to stay here. They're starting to pull themselves back into reality of, I want to stay here, but reality is telling me I'm not likely going to get to. Okay? And then once I've had that conversation, I can start pulling them back to what options are still available that they can move forward with that will allow them at least to probably capture some equity out of the home so they're not stuck on the other side of it, high and dry. Okay? So where are we going at from here? What type of lead do we have? Remember earlier I said depending upon the amount of equity that's in the home will greatly dictate the strategies that you're able to employ to get this sale stopped. Well, a lot of this is going to be predicated upon how much equity is in the home. Okay? What's owed? Should I flip it or short it? This is just a real quick summary of some options to you. I kind of borrowed this from Grant Kemp. He put this into a much better slide than what I have right here today. But Grant Kemp kind of introduced me to this little concept of being able to teach this to somebody, and I'm borrowing this from him. But rehabs, you know what? If their loan to value is less than 70%, that's a solid rehab for you. You can rehab that property all day long, easy peasy, good deal to go. But you know what you can't do with that rehab? You know what you can, if you, sorry, I said that wrong. If the loan to value is less than 70%, you can do anything up there. You can rehab it, you can rent it, you can sub to it, you can retail it. You can't short it, excuse me, but I can do any of those 4 things. Okay? What if I'm on the phone with them and their loan to value is about 80% or less? Let's say it's, right around that 80% mark. That's a good opportunity to rent it. I can rent it, I can sub to it, I can retail it. I can do any of those 3, but I really shouldn't rehab it. I shouldn't really be rehabbing it 80 cents on the dollar. Shannon, how do you get access to the seller's bank info? I'll ask the seller for it directly. I'll ask them to see a copy of their last mortgage statement, and I'll get that information from them directly. Okay? But if the property has a 70% or less loan to value, I can rehab it, I can rent it, I can sub to it, I can retail it. If the property's around 80% or less, I can rent it, sub to it, or retail it. If it's around 90% or greater, or somewhere around there, if the loan to value is, I really have to sub to it. If it's greater than 93 cents on the dollar, I'm going to have to short it. Now, could I possibly sub to it at that value? Yes. But those right there are kind of the strategies that I personally can employ to kind of move forward with buying and or disposing of this property. If there's really little to no value there, I'm going to have to short it. If there's a ton of value there, I can pretty much do anything I want to with it. So that opens up the opportunities. I don't know if that really helped at all, but Grant Kemp does a far better job of teaching that particular slide. Okay? So going forward from there, every lead is not a deal, and I cannot stress this to you enough. So many times you will get caught up with one seller that's looking to sell their home, and you will exhaust every bit of every waking hour trying to turn a lead that's not a lead into a lead. Try to do your best to qualify and disqualify the people you should be working with, and doing that fast. It will make your life a much better life, and it will make these sellers' lives much better too, because you're going to be able to focus on the people that truly need your help. Okay? Be prepared with referrals. When you do get those listings, those properties that should really be a real estate listing, you know what? You should have a very good list of referrals in your back pocket. 4 or 5 agents that you could refer these people over to and say, hey, you know what? Give this real estate agent a phone call. They can get this property listed for you, and you might be able to get a referral fee for that lead. You always want to capitalize on every lead you possibly can. Let's say that it's an upside down property and you're not really planning to do any shorts yourself. Guess what? You might be able to refer this off to a short specialist. Let's say that you're not really a subject to creative financing specialist. You really don't do that type of stuff. Well, you know what? If you're not going to go out there and contract it and assign your creative financing contract, well, then you should probably have some creative financiers in your network that you can refer these types of leads to. Why? Because you want the referral volume. You want these JV deals, things that you can pull off to capitalize on every single thing. Veronica asked a question. She says, what is a short? Good question. A short is whenever I get the bank to sell me the home for less than what it's owed. If the bank is owed $100,000 and I get the bank to accept $80,000 to release all the liens, that is a short. I was short the full payment to pay the bank, and they agreed to release the lien anyways and sell it to me. So that's what a short sale is. Okay? I'm going to keep it going. Set the appointment. I definitely want to get that appointment going. So what are the potential outcomes? Okay? This is getting into the 12 ways to stop a foreclosure. Okay, I am about to get deep into the 12 different ways to stop a foreclosure, and then that's going to be the end of tonight's call. We do have 2 more episodes that are going to be followed up on this over the next. Yes, Melody Medley is fire. She is by all means the absolute short sale queen. There is no one that I have met that can compete with her in the DFW marketplace. Melody Medley has done close to 800 plus short sales, I do believe. The last time I spoke with her, she is an absolute encyclopedia of knowledge on short sales. Okay, so we're going to get into this. 12 ways to stop a foreclosure. Ooh, good times. I don't have any water up here. All right. I'm going to go for another hour without any water. All right, good times. All right, stopping the sale can result in really one of 2 things. They either get to keep the home or sell the home. There's really kind of no in between. Once this property goes to auction, those are really the only 2 outcomes that I can really foreseeably see. And each and every one of these ways to stop a foreclosure will directly reflect one of these 2 types of things, and or it could possibly have both. So we're going to go through and take a look at some of these. If they are looking to keep the house, let me cut over to that real quick. they can move forward and try to set up some form of a repayment plan with the bank. If you qualify for a repayment plan, typically your past due amount will be spread out over a set period of time frame, such as 3, 6, or 9 months, and added on to your existing mortgage payments. This is a possibility, okay? Repayment plan sounds beautiful. I love the way that sounds. Let's take into consideration some serious realities with that, okay? If this is a way for a seller to save their home, I will sit down and a seller will a lot of times be like, oh, I want to do a repayment plan. Okay, I like that. Are you currently employed? No. Where are you going to get this money? I don't know. I'm going to get a job. All right, you haven't had a job in 7 months. Do you really think you're going to get a job in the next 2 weeks? Well, I'm going to go look for a job now. Are you starting to get what I'm saying? Like, they need to really understand, okay, let's say that they do give you a 9-month repayment plan. Let's see if we can get on the phone with the bank and see if we can get the bank to agree to a repayment plan. What? You've already got a new job? You're only struggling to get caught up on your past due payments? You know what? This might be a good plan for you. This might actually be a good plan for you. You've got a new job again. You're making good money again. You just don't have $6,000 to catch up your past due payments, but you do have an extra $800 a month in disposable income. Let's see if we can call the bank up right now and say, you know what? Will you give me 12 months to pay this back? Let me pay an extra $800 a month for the next 12 months to get caught up. Will you do this? There is a good chance that the banks will allow them to do this. And guess what? You just saved that seller from foreclosure. Well, they saved themselves. You just kind of gave them the path to save themselves with. Repayment plan can most definitely work. But the seller is going to have to be in a situation that they can afford to do that. Oftentimes I'll find people that are like, oh, I want to do a repayment plan, but they can't afford to do it. It's just really nothing other than hopes and dreams. There's no reality that really dictates that they're actually going to be able to come through and pull off a repayment plan. So I'll have that conversation with them. It's like, all right, and I recommend this. So before I get too far down this, I recommend everybody watching do this. Write down all 12 of these. Then go out and do your own research on each of these 12 so that way you are knowledgeable on the subject matter. Then take and record certain documents, PDF files that you find, blog articles that you find, websites that you find, and screen print these or whatever, and put them all into a professional binder of some sort. I like to go to FedEx, Kinko's, and get them to print out these really nice. They're not even flyers; they're more like binded brochures that are like 15 to 20 pages long. I bring these with me on my pre-foreclosure appointments, so A, it brings a level of professionalism with me, but it allows me to point back to statistics and data that I might not necessarily be able to convince the seller of as being real. It's like, okay, right now, a repayment plan. Let's look at that. Let's take a look at all of these. And what I can do is I can sit down with the seller and be like, okay, you're wanting to keep the house. Here are the 6 options that I know of that will allow you to keep their house. There might be other options outside of these 6, but these are the 6 that I know of. Here are the key things that you need to understand about each one. Here are the things that will qualify you for them. Here are the things that will disqualify you for them. Does this meet your needs? Yes or no? Yes? All right, try that one out. Yes or no? No, 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 yes. All right, try those 2 out. All right, you don't always have to do just one thing. You can try multiple different things at once, okay? But I keep that binder with me on all my appointments, okay? Repayment plan, a partial FHA claim. This is a golden nugget right here. Not very many people have ever heard of this. This is a solid golden nugget. Go out there and do your own research on it. But a partial FHA claim is an interest-free loan from HUD to get caught up on the overdue payments. The loan does not have to be repaid until the first mortgage is paid off or until the borrower no longer owns the property. Think about that. If this is a government-backed loan, there are qualifying factors to this. That's why I'm saying go out and do your own research, put together a binder. I believe that a partial FHA claim cannot be made after 6 months of delinquent payments. So if they're on month 9, guess what? You might not be able to do a partial FHA claim. Well, if you understand the HUD required guidelines, and I recommend print the HUD required guidelines for an FHA loan. Keep those in your binder so you can sit down with the seller and be like, have you ever heard of a partial FHA claim? This is basically how a partial FHA claim works. Here are the qualifiers. You cannot be more than 6 months delinquent. You must have a federally backed mortgage. You must have to XYZ. Do you qualify for this? Okay, you're 4 months behind. You could possibly pull that off. You've got a federally backed loan. That's great. FHA partial claim is not also called a loan modification. Not the same thing. Two different things. Loan modifications, partial FHA claims, not the same thing. Now, a bank might do a loan modification and still file for an FHA claim, but they are not the same things. Okay, the key thing about a FHA claim is, let's say I'm $8,000 in past due payments, and I meet all of the guidelines of an FHA claim. HUD will catch up all of my past due payments. $8,000 worth of past due payments, and I will not have to make a single payment on that loan at all until I've either paid off the first mortgage, meaning wait until that 30-year mortgage is paid off, then I start making payments on the $8,000 loan, or I sell the property and that loan has to be recaptured at sale. That is a great option for a seller to get out from underneath a foreclosure when they may not have ever even known about it or heard of it, but there are very key things that have to be met. They A, must have a hardship, B, I think they can't be more than 6 months behind on loan payments, and C, they must qualify with their income to prove that they can still afford the house. Because FHA doesn't want to give $8,000 to catch up the loan payments just to find out that the person still can't afford the house. So there are clear qualifications that have to be met. Guess what? Most banks, when you are talking with them, have no clue what that is. You will need to have the HUD guidelines right there in front of you and say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, I understand that you're working at a call center and you are not the first, the person that makes decisions. Can I get this call escalated up to your loss mitigators? Because I have some very important questions to ask. And then I'll get on the phone with the loss mitigator. Now, whenever I talk up to the loss mitigator, these persons are possibly like mid-tier decision makers. I'm going to have that phone call with them and be like, have you ever heard of a partial FHA claim? It's underneath HUD loan guidelines 11-1942. I don't remember what they are. And it clearly states that we're going to do this. Let's go ahead and move forward and file this partial FHA claim. The banks are not likely going to have a clue what you're talking about. You will have to control that conversation and push that conversation along. If they're refusing to have that conversation with you, escalate it to the next layer. Escalate it to the next layer. But at the end of the day, this partial FHA claim might give this seller an option to stay in their home, get all their payments caught up, especially for someone that's currently employed, just struggling to get caught up. Great option for a seller to keep their home, but keep that printed out inside of your pamphlet with all the qualifying, qualifying factors involved. So when you are sitting at that couch with that seller, you can bust that pamphlet out, pop through it, and be like, all right, here are the ways that you can keep your house. Partial FHA claim, is that a go or a no-go? All right, you're disqualified from it because you don't have a government-backed loan. That was a great option, but it's just not available to you, XYZ. Now, that's how I move forward and contract my foreclosures. Are y'all starting to see why whenever I go on a foreclosure call, the probability that I'm going to get the property is highly likely, because my first job when I show up is to educate the seller. My second job is to solve the problem. And if solving the problem means that I get to buy it, then great. I get to buy it. If I don't get to buy it, then great. The homeowner gets to save their home, and I will almost guaranteed get a referral from that person in the future. Okay? So, on to the next one. Forbearance agreement. Forbearance agreement is nothing other than I am agreeing, the banks are agreeing to postpone the foreclosure for a specific period of time. So under a forbearance plan, the borrower makes reduced payments or does not have to make any payments at all for a specific period of time. Okay, that's it. That's all the forbearance agreement is. Now, there's a lot of other things, like the bank might say, I'm going to postpone the foreclosure for 6 months. You don't have to make any payments for those 6 months. And at the end of the 6 months, it's a balloon. I want all 6 months payments paid at once. That's not a forbearance agreement I would accept. You know, it's really up to what you and the banks negotiate. So keep that in mind when we talk about forbearance agreements. But a forbearance agreement might be something that's going to allow the seller to keep the home because they figure out some form or fashion to come to an agreement that allows them to stay, such as, you know what, here's another potential for a forbearance agreement. Let's say, hey, bank, I'm 4 months behind on payments right now. I am completely and totally aware that you have every right to foreclose on me, but I can promise you right now that the condition that the home is in right now, you don't want to foreclose. You're going to lose money on this property. What I would like to ask of you is for you to please take into consideration, would you place these 4 payments that I have missed, would you add them to the back of the loan and allow me to make those payments as I originally planned going forward? I will make every monthly payment moving forward, but please don't make me pay those last 4 months. This last 4 months have been really hard for me. I lost my job, and on top of that, I had gotten through a divorce. It's been really rough, but I'm on my feet again. I can't catch up those last 4 payments, but I can make every payment moving forward. Would you please consider putting those 4 payments that I owe you on the back side of the loan, and I promise you I'll pay them. There were some key things I said in that conversation with the bank. You don't want to take the house back. The condition of the property is not something you want. Now, I don't have that phone call with the opening operator that answered the phone. That's the first tier of defense. I want to escalate that phone call to a loss mitigator. I want to go from that loss mitigator up to that loss mitigator's boss. And I'm going to just keep saying, hey, you don't want to take this house back. I'll show you some pictures right now. You're owed 90 for it. At best, it's worth 60. Your choices right now are foreclose on it and take a loss, or take 4 payments and place them on the back side of the loan. We can prove that the homeowner has the ability to make all these payments going forward. They have a job. They just can't catch up these 4 payments. Do you want to risk losing $30,000 to $40,000 at auction, or put 4 payments on the back side of the loan? Getting a forbearance agreement, when you have that kind of conversation with a decision maker at the bank that's wise, you have a chance of pulling that forbearance off. Okay? Does that make sense? So these are the types of conversations that I either A, might advise the seller to have with the bank themselves, or I might just put the bank on speakerphone with the seller right there and be like, hey, let's see if we can pull this off for you. Everything says that you might be able to pull this off. Let's see if we can do it real quick. Boom, let's get on the phone call. While I'm on the phone call with the seller and myself, I'll have the seller add me as a temporary authorized agent on the account so I can speak with the bank independently. I'll talk more about that later on when we talk about going through stopping a foreclosure, because it's important to be able to speak with the banks, to speak with the trustees and all that type of stuff. So what I need to do is make sure that the seller adds me as a temporary authorized agent on the account while I work on getting my third-party authorization imaged into their system. The terminology that I just used was very specific because that's the terminology that you're going to need to use with the bank. If you did not understand that, then you are in the right class. This is the class for you because these are the types of things that I'm teaching, okay? So let me get back over here real quick. We got forbearance agreements. What else do we got? Wrong button. Boom, 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 boom. That button. All right. Loan modifications. This is the one that I hear most often coming from a homeowner. They've heard this term. Now, I'm gonna take a second to segue because I've done this a little bit throughout. I've got about another 27 minutes left in this class. You are a real estate investor marketing to these homeowners. Guess what? You are not the only type of person marketing to these homeowners. Real estate investors are marketing to these people. Real estate agents are marketing to these people. Lawyers, bankruptcy attorneys are marketing to these people. Loan modification companies are marketing to these people. So not only will you be looking at real estate investors marketing to these people, I've also got loan modification companies marketing to these people. So I must work through this thought process of this loan modification is going to save my day. Okay? So what is a loan modification? A loan modification is a permanent restructuring of the mortgage where one or more of the terms of a borrower's loan are changed to provide a more affordable payment. I don't like the fact that in that definition it says provide a more affordable payment, because I have more often than not seen a loan modification result in a higher payment, which makes no sense. But you combine all of this together, loan modifications do provide a reasonable end result for a homeowner to keep their home. Now, If I'm sitting down with a seller and they do not have a job, they have no source of income, is it probable that a bank is going to approve that loan modification? Let me get a unanimous response from everybody out there on social media right now. No. Not very likely they're going to get a loan modification when they have absolutely no way to document any income at all. The loan modification process will likely go through a level of underwriting. What do I mean by underwriting? That's going to mean somebody's going to sit down with a checklist and say, do they fit this box? Yes. They have a credit score of at least 600. They have income of at least this. They have this, and this. If they don't fit that box, the loan modification is not happening. Now, I do not have this particular statistic memorized in my head, but there was a article written about loan modifications, and they looked at Bank of America. In like 2008, Bank of America received, I'm throwing numbers out there just to lay it out there, but the numbers I'm laying out there really aren't an exaggeration. The article really did lay out numbers very similar to the ones I'm speaking on right now. Bank of America received like 300,000 loan modifications in around 2008. Of the 300,000 loan modification requests they received, how many do you think were approved? Okay? 300,000 applied. I used to have that article saved off to the side, but that right there really kind of brings into the reality of like, I know that you're filing for the loan modification, and I know that you don't have a job, and I know that you have no credit, and I know that you think that this loan modification can work for you because you received a postcard for, hey, Nick Legamaro, how are you doing today? For anybody that does not know Nick buys a ton of houses. He might just buy a house from you if you've got a house for sale. But Nick, great answer, 85,000. The article that I read was a double-digit number. I remember that much, and I believe it was 33. Now, I cannot have you quote me on that. That was an article from like 6 years ago. All that taken into consideration, though, do print out as much information as you possibly can on loan modifications. So when you're sitting down at a house with a seller that is just dead set on that loan modification option, you can present them with some statistical facts provided by other people other than yourself that can show them that there is a possibility that this ain't going to work out for you. You got HAMP, the Home Affordability Modification Program. You've got HARP. You've got all these different programs out there, and you should really print out what those different loan modification programs are, what the guidelines for those programs are, so that way the seller can really quickly decide on their own whether or not the loan modification makes sense to them. I'm going to throw down another real quick nugget for everybody out there. For those that are not familiar with it, it's called Plan B. Plan B is a lifesaver. You can always count on Plan B. Now, what do I mean by Plan B? The seller is dead set on this loan modification. There is no way in the world that they are going to listen to the facts that they're not going to get approved for this loan modification. They're like, I haven't had a job in 2 years. I know I don't have a job. I don't have any income, but this bank's going to give me a loan modification. They're just holding on to their saving grace, loan modification, loan modification, loan modification. That is where you, as a sophisticated real estate investor, offer up Plan B. Here's how I would do it. I'd say, hey, Mr. or Mrs. Seller, I am 110% understanding that you want to move forward and pursue the loan modification. And honestly, if that is what you feel is in your best interest, I suggest that you do that. I don't think that you'll get approved, but there is a chance that you could. So go ahead and move forward with that. But let me make a recommendation to you. Have you ever heard the saying, don't ever put all of your eggs in one basket? You know what? You're putting a lot of hope on that loan modification. And while I truly hope that you're able to get that pulled off, you know what? If it doesn't happen and you find that out just before the sale occurs, there might not be enough time for you to go forward with a second option. How about this? Would you be willing, if I gave you a fair offer, would you be willing to sell the house to me if I gave you a fair offer, but I'll write into the purchase agreement that you have the right to cancel this contract at any given point in time if you are approved and you go forward with a loan modification? Would that put you at ease? Would it make you feel better to know that, you know what, not all of your eggs are in one basket? You have this loan modification as your first option, and in the event you're able to get that, the purchase agreement that you've put forward with me on the fair offer that I'm giving you right now goes null and void the second your loan modification is approved. I cannot express to you how many contracts I got off of Plan B. I cannot even come close to expressing to you how many contracts I got off of Plan B. And I can tell you this, out of all the contracts I got off of Plan B, how many of them do you think executed the right to cancel the contract? 0. I have never once had somebody cancel their contract off of Plan B. So Plan B is by all means my go-to whenever I've got somebody that's clearly trying to pursue a path that's not in their best interest. I will try to load them up with a Plan B scenario. Okay, let me touch base real quick on YouTube and see if I've got any questions popping in over there. How are y'all liking the content so far? Y'all learning anything? Are y'all feeling like this is dumb and dry, or like are your little hands burning from all the questions you're hitting? Holy bejeebus, Eric Fate just gave me $4.99. Woohoo! Say what? You just made $100. So for everybody that's watching right now, if you're not on YouTube, Eric just dropped a massive, wonderful, solid, how do I say that? He justified in one statement exactly why I'm doing this. He made over $100,000 on a single deal after absorbing all of the content that Propelio and the Propelio Academy puts out for free. There is nothing that I could possibly imagine more gratifying for me than to see somebody like that coming in here and dropping some serious nuggets like that. Like, I cannot count the number of people that have approached me after I spoke at an event or something and just said, hey, you've completely changed my life. I'm retired now because of the content that you've provided. So for anybody that's out there that's watching this right now, do believe that this is possible. Don't let life get you down. You know what? There's a great testimony right there. Eric, thank you for the $4.99. Dude made over $100,000 on a single sub 2 deal after absorbing all the content from the Propelio Academy. Greatness. All right. So Eric, like he said, my attorney doesn't like the land trust because it's misleading. Put it in an LLC and take the risk. I'm of the same opinion. Other people argue differently. They feel like that the trust gives them an extra added layer of protection. Me personally, I'm okay with just taking it over in an LLC and running that gambit. I appreciate all the love coming in from both Facebook and YouTube. I'm scanning real quick to see if I missed anybody's questions. Trying to look here. Trying to see if I got any questions I missed. I don't think I missed any questions. So if you had some, drop them, and I'll get to them as soon as I possibly can. I don't see anything popping up over here on Facebook. So, boom. All right. I don't think I see anything coming in, so I'm going to go ahead and keep on going. All right. So loan modifications, all 3 of those, or all 4 of those, 5 of those, are clear ways for people to keep a hold of their house. If I'm sitting down with the seller, I'm on the phone with the seller, and I know that they want to keep their house, I will go through those as potential options for them to keep their house, but I've got to keep in the back of mind the underlying qualifications that are required for them to meet those needs. Okay? So those are things that I'm trying to keep through, and I'll let the seller self-select. I don't have to convince the seller to do anything. The seller, I give them what the options are. I help them through understanding what the qualifications, disqualifications are, and the seller should be able, by the end of this conversation, know which options are currently available to them. I'm not trying to mislead them. I'm not trying to pull the wool over their eyes. I'm not trying to lie to them. I'm trying to make sure that they're making a wise decision, so that way, if at the end of the day I do make money, which is what I'm planning to try and do if I'm able to get this property under contract, I try not to hide that. I was like, I'll gladly work with you, and if I do work with you in any capacity, I do need to leave room in there for me to make profit as a business. This is a business. I have to make wise business decisions, but my goal is not here to take your home. If you want to keep your home, here are 5, 6, 7, 8 different ways that you can keep your home. If you feel like any of those work out for you, I'll definitely guide you in the right direction. I might even make a couple of phone calls on your behalf while we're sitting here, but at the end of the day, I can't tie up too much more time with you after that, but feel free to give me a call back, or we can hit up Plan B. I love Plan B all day long. Okay, it says time for a quick break. This is for live presentations where I'm actually out. I teach this for free live, different presentations, but moving forward from there. So here's another potential option for keeping the house. Refinance. Okay, to refinance your home means to replace your current mortgage loan with a new one. Very clean cut and simple. Who do you think refinance might work for? Okay, let's say I've missed 8 payments on my house. I'm $8,000 behind in payments on my house. I've got a really good job. My credit score is not too bad. Even though I missed those 8 payments, my credit score is still doing all right. It's, in the mid 600s. Guess what? I've got a great job now. My income's looking really good, but I don't have $8,000 to catch up. But I do have a respectable amount of equity in my home. In those types of situations, the seller does have the potential of being able to reach out and refinance their home with a new lender. They might have to pay a little bit higher interest rate. They might have to do a few different things. But you know what? They might be able to use some of that equity that's in their home to refinance and let that equity that's in their home repay some of the past due payments, and or possibly even when they refinance, take a little bit of equity out of their home. Those are options available to people, but those options are really only available to people that are currently gainfully employed and have the ability to prove revenue. If they don't have that and they don't have equity in their home, that is not an option. Okay? Okay, so let's keep going. Another potential option is what's called a short refinance. Remember, I said 12 different ways. Okay? A short refinance is a transaction in which the lender agrees to refinance the borrower's home for the current market value. The lender agrees to replace the lender's current loan with a new one and pay off the difference. How could that be beneficial to a seller? Let's say a seller's 3 months behind on payments. Bank is starting to initiate foreclosure proceedings. Seller is gainfully employed but lost 3 months worth of payments for whatever reason. Whatever reason the reason is, they missed 3 payments. The home's worth $200,000 and they owe the bank $240,000. These are not common. Short refinances are not common, but you might be able to call the bank back up and say, hey, I know what? I know I'm 3 months behind on payments. I hit a hardship, but I'm also very much aware that I'm very much upside down on this property. I would much rather either A, sell the property as a short sale because I owe more than the home is worth, and the bank should understand what a short sale process is. If not, get away from the call center and move your way up to the loss mitigators, move your way up to the management. But say, hey, I understand that the home is worth less than I owe on it. And while I'm sitting here in the current position I'm in, I really believe that if you take this home back, you're going to take a significant loss when you try to take this to auction. I would like to make solid on my commitment to y'all, but at the current state of affairs, with me being behind on my payments and with the current value of the home being substantially less than what the loan value is on it, is there any chance I would be able to get you, if I could prove that I have the ability to make all of these payments moving forward, would you be willing to refinance me this property at the current market value? I would be willing to continue making payments on this home if you'd be willing to refinance it for me at the current market value, saving you the risk of taking it to auction and taking an even bigger loss, save you the risk of taking this property back as an REO and dealing with the property preservation crews, dealing with your inability to lend when you're looking at your bank audits, when you're dealing with the risks of holding one of these in your portfolio. When you're looking at all those risks, I can save you those issues if you'd be willing to short refi me. Okay? Once again, the seller has to qualify for a loan for the most part. I mean, they're going to have to be able to substantially prove that they can repay that loan. But if they can, they might be able to convince the bank of a short refi. Okay? So, let's keep moving forward. What's the next one? Could be either. Okay? Could be eithers. These are situations where I either might be able to get to keep the home or sell the home, but a lot of what I'm about to show are pretty much time delays. These are things that create more time, to create more options, to allow the seller to figure out more things. Here's one of them, a temporary restraining order. Once again, I've never personally pulled one of these off. I've applied for 2 of them. I've paid for 2 of them. I got denied for 2 of them. Yet I hear other investors scream that these are like their saving grace. I'm not going to argue with them. They may have figured out a process different than mine. They may have had a more qualified attorney than I did. So if someone else is teaching temporary restraining orders, dig in from them. I'm not going to be the one to be able to really shine a bright and shiny light on them saying that they're greatness. I haven't had a lot of experience with them. But to obtain a temporary restraining order, a party must convince the judge that he or she will suffer immediate, irreparable harm unless the order is issued. These orders are intended to be stopgap measures. Most TROs that I've seen last for a couple of weeks. And you have to have a legitimate reason to get one. Now, maybe some of these people talking TROs are in other states, like judicial states. Like I know in Florida, I was having a conversation with Taryn Ward the other day, or Tara Ward, and she was like, you know what, you can go into a courthouse and cough and they'll give you a TRO. Well, in Texas, we are a very lender-friendly state. You go into a court and be like, I want a TRO against this bank to stop the foreclosure. They're going to be like, prove to me why I should give it to you. And then you have to show a very legitimate reason, such as fraud or something like that going on, to get the TRO. It's not just given away willy-nilly in Texas from my experience. So that's my personal experience. You can't weigh in too definitely on that. But a TRO will definitely stop a foreclosure, and it'll give you, at the very least, several weeks to buy yourself some more time before the foreclosure starts back up again. So TROs are definitely an option. Bankruptcy. Bankruptcies are almost a guaranteed, no matter what, stop of a foreclosure. If a property is scheduled to go to foreclosure at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, and there is a foreclosure or there is a bankruptcy filed and recorded at 9:59 a.m., that foreclosure just got stopped. You can go down to the very wire on a bankruptcy, and a bankruptcy will stop the foreclosure underneath one circumstance. The seller cannot be a habitual bankrupter. This can't be like their 15th bankruptcy, okay? But if the seller hasn't filed bankruptcy anytime recently, this right here is an option for a seller that is in need of stopping the sale. It's kind of like that Hail Mary last-ditch effort. Nobody wants to file a bankruptcy, but if you have a property that has some significant equity in it and or the seller needs some more time and they have no other options available to them at the time, bankruptcy is almost a guaranteed way to get that foreclosure stopped. Now, remember, I told you that there are more than just real estate investors marketing these people. You got real estate investors, real estate agents, loan modification specialists, bankruptcy attorneys. All of these people are marketing to this seller. Okay? Now, if I am sitting down with a seller, I am never one trying to convince somebody to file a bankruptcy. It's not my job. I'm not giving legal advice. I'm not there to consult with them on it. Some things that I will do is I'll ask them, how are you looking with all of your finances? Like, is the house the only thing really that's a problem? Or are you behind on everything? Like, are you just so far behind that there's no hopes of you catching back up again? Well, you know what? If a seller's in that type of situation, a bankruptcy might actually be a personal choice for theirs, but they're going to need to discuss that with an attorney. Now, if we are in a situation where the seller needs that sale stopped and they need it stopped as soon as possible, because let's say they do have $50,000 in equity on the house and it's about to go to foreclosure in 24 hours. Well, guess what? There's $50,000 in equity there. And you know what? A bankruptcy filing to extend out their foreclosure, and they can't get a forbearance agreement, they can't get the bank to postpone, they can't get any of that type of stuff, a bankruptcy might actually be their best choice. Okay, I am never one to sit there and try and convince a seller to file bankruptcy. In all of my years of doing pre-foreclosure investing, I've probably only worked with four homeowners that really needed to file a bankruptcy, and they did. But the situation was so dire that they had to buy more time, and there was no other options out there. So the sellers did file bankruptcy to buy more time so they could sell their home and recapture the equity that they had in there. So it's not great for them. You know, it's going to hit their credit. It's going to be on their credit. But at the same time, the alternative is bankruptcy on my credit and I lose my equity, or foreclosure on my equity and foreclosure on my home and I lose my equity, or bankruptcy on my record and I keep my equity. Well, most sane people will say, you know what, if I have to have a foreclosure and no equity, or a bankruptcy plus equity, I'll take the bankruptcy plus equity. So that's kind of the decision-making process there. Okay? In some ways, it's kind of like magic fairy dust. I mean, like I said, literally down to the wire. If the property is going to auction at 10 a.m. on Tuesday, if the bankruptcy is filed and recorded, recorded in public record at 9:59 a.m., 1 minute before the auction, gone. Auction stopped. Even if the property sold at auction because they were unaware of your bankruptcy filing, the auction will be unwound, the buyer will receive their funds back, the deed will go back to the homeowner, and the sale will be unwound. So this is a very clear-cut way to get a foreclosure stopped immediately. Okay? So, keeping it going. Payoff arrears. Remember, these are all things that could either be keep the house or sell the house. You know what? Bankruptcy, that might buy them the time to keep it. TRO might buy them the time to keep it. Here's another one. Pay off the arrears. That's quite easily the simplest way to do it. You know what? They're $8,000 behind on payment. Give the bank their $8,000 that they're owed. Bankruptcy's gone. Done. Gone. Stopped. Nothing else to worry about. Nothing else to argue about. Now let's look at that from the both scenarios. Okay? Scenario number one is the seller comes up with the money, whether they take out a personal loan, they sell off something that's got some equity in it. However they come up with it, they pay off the arrears. The seller gets to keep the home. Done. I can't think of a better situation than that. Alternatively, how could this be I purchase the home and pay off the arrears? That's called subject to purchase. I'll pay off all the past due payments. I will take the deed to the property, and I will continue making the payments on the home on the seller's behalf. That is called a subject to purchase. I'm going to have to go see if I got some water next door or something because my mouth is dry. Give me a second. I did not have any water. And I don't feel like going downstairs right now. All right. So sorry about that. I needed about a 45-second intermission. But paying off the arrears will most definitely get the sale stopped. So those were different ways that could be either selling the house or keeping the house. But most of them are really just band-aids to keep the foreclosure postponed long enough to create a separate agreement of some form. Okay, giving up the house. Deed in lieu. Deed in lieu is a deed in lieu of foreclosure is a transaction where the homeowner voluntarily transfers title to the property to the lender, in exchange for a release from the mortgage obligation. The simplest and easiest way of saying this is, you know what, bank, you're planning on foreclosing to take it from me. Instead of foreclosing, how about I just give you the house back? You know what? That sounds like it's better than a foreclosure. And there are some banks that will take a deed in lieu, but most banks will not take a deed in lieu. Now, some of y'all might think, wow, why wouldn't the bank just take the house? If I'm willing to give it to them, why won't the bank just take it back from me instead of foreclosing? Well, the foreclosure process really does award the bank some benefits. It wipes the slate clear of all claims of interest against that property that were filed post the first lien. That talks about lien and lien positions. You know what? If I'm a first position lien, I'm the first mortgage, and the homeowner has gone out and got a second mortgage. Well, if I take the property back deed in lieu, guess what? That second mortgage is still there. It's still there. I got a property back with a bunch of liens against it. Now, alternatively, you know what? If there are no liens against this property and the bank is willing to accept a deed in lieu, and the seller's considering a deed in lieu, I might just sit down with the seller and be like, hey, if you're willing to just give this home to the bank, why not just give this home to me? You know, if you're going to give it to somebody, why give it to the bank? Give it to me. I'll at least give you a little bit of money for it or something like that. If the seller is so disconnected emotionally from the property that they're willing to just say, hey, bank, you can have it. Well, if you're going to give it to somebody, I'm standing right here. Give it to me. You know what? So I'll try and look at it from that way. Maurice, you got a question over there that says, both parties has to agree, correct? Kind of yeah, kind of no. Let me pose this question upon you and see what your answer is. Who has to sign a deed? There's only one person that has to sign a deed. And who is that? The seller. Is it possible that I could draft my own transfer of ownership, sign it, and file it? I'm not making any recommendations at all. I'm asking questions that allow your brain to move down a path. There's only one signature on the deed, and that's the owner's. And that deed is who owns the property. So there is a chance where I might just be able to draft a deed in lieu of my own, sign it, and file it. Do I mean that that's going to hold up? Am I guaranteeing that'll hold up? I'm not talking about anything other than just some basic facts. There's only one signature required on the deed, and that's the seller's. And from that point forward, you can kind of deed in lieu it yourself. All right. So yeah, Chris Monroe, he's over there, Mr. Stay Woke. Plenty of sellers do say the bank can just have it. I cannot count the number of times I've had a seller just say, man, the bank can just have it. If you're gonna give it to somebody, how about you give it to me? That's really my response back to that. And if you can't convince a homeowner that's willing to just give away their house to give it to you instead, especially if you're willing to pay them $500, $1,000, $2,000, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Okay, so there's the deed in lieu. What else do we have? We've got a short sale. The sale of real estate in which the net proceeds from selling the property will fall short of the debt secured by liens against the property. In this case, if all lien holders agree to accept less than the amount owed on the debt, a sale of the property can be accomplished. So this is a sale. It does require the property be transferred over to a new homeowner, and the short sale needs to be an arm's length transaction. All of that taken into consideration. If you need to learn more about short sales, there is a full course in the Propelio Academy teaching short sales. It's taught by Melody Medley over at Oyez Real Estate. If anybody in here has never seen the Propelio Academy before, it is a 100% free to you education resource. I do say it's free to you because I don't like saying it's free because it wasn't free. I've invested probably close to $600,000 or $700,000 at least into that education system for y'all. All that taken into consideration, I do provide it at no cost. I believe that this education is powerful enough to trade lives, to change lives, as we have seen just from the YouTube comments alone, that one man from the Propelio Academy and through the Propelio trainings has received over $100,000 on one single subject to deal. That is a lifesaver. That's a life changer. You only need to do 10 of those to have your net worth hit $1 million. So, all of that taken into consideration, go check out propelio.com/academy. Massive amounts. There's close to 300 videos, all on step-by-step education, just like I'm teaching right here. And short sales are taught in the Propelio Academy. I've got a question coming in from Jesse. Says, yes, but what type of deed? A deed without warranty or a quitclaim deed? I would have a lawyer draft a deed in lieu. Just exactly that, deed in lieu. So I'd have an attorney draft that. Okay? Let me see if I got anything popping in over on YouTube. Okay. Trying to catch up where I lost. All right. Keeping it going. How can someone get equity out of their house if the credit is poor? So Bill asked a question over there on YouTube. Great question. It says, how can someone get equity out of their house if the credit is poor? That really just goes down to underwriting criteria from bank to bank. You're likely not going to go through and get a refinance or something like that, or any sort of cash out refinance going to one of the big banks. Small credit unions, especially if small credit unions, they've got a existing account and or history with small regional and or local banks that have internal underwriting that might be able to look at the deal and be like, you know what, there's really little to no risk involved in this loan. Let's go ahead and do it. Those types of things are available to them, Bill. So they might need a credit check, but once again, when you start dealing with smaller banks, the opportunity to really negotiate the underwriting of that loan really gets flexible. Coming through. Okay, I'm just looking through, so I don't see any other questions coming in. We're getting close to the end of this conversation, though, so I'm going to finish up some of these last ones. So give it up as a short sale. Pay off the loan balance. I mean, how difficult does that have to be? What does paying off the loan balance mean, though? That means I bought the house free. I just bought it. It's like, you owed $180,000 for it. I paid you $180,000 for it. Give me the house. Right there. That right there is a very clear-cut, very easy way of stopping a foreclosure. Just buy the house, pay off the loan. So there is an option for you to go forward and stop the foreclosure. So these were all 12 different ways that I know of to stop a foreclosure. I do recommend keeping that as a packet with you on your person at all times when you're going on these appointments. It cleans up and makes the negotiation process so much easier, especially when you can set this in front of the seller and allow them to thumb through it and look through it on their own. Okay, where am I at here? Coming back over here, coming over there. Veronica has asked a question that says, when the seller decides to sell, is the process to close the same as a normal wholesale process? Very similar with some additional required work. Your communication is going to be very important in this process, communicating with the banks as well as the trustees that are enforcing and moving the sale along. So that is really the additional process. You may be short on time and have to extend the sale out. Now you're dealing with guaranteed foreclosures. So like when you're dealing with a typical wholesale deal, if you're unable to get it closed on the first, no big deal. You've got more time. These types of deals, you don't. There is no more time. You have to be very on top of the closing process. You have to be very open on your communication with the sellers, the banks, the trustees, and all the other creditors involved. Getting payoffs, they have to be pushed, rushed. You have to get very bulldogish with the people you're working with. There is no option for playing around on this. It's like, this property goes to auction in 72 hours. I need a payoff. You're not giving me a payoff? Attorney, I wanted a payoff. Attorney, draft me a letter to this bank stating that if they do not give me the payoff in the required amount of time to stop this foreclosure, I will sue them and I will get the home back after the foreclosure, blah, 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 blah. You got to get kind of aggressive with this. You cannot let these properties go to foreclosure. It is your duty when you sit down with that seller and you say you're going to work with them and get this foreclosure stopped, that you actually do this. So it does come with an extra layer of responsibility, an extra layer of ethics that you're doing this properly. And the last and final most important piece is just understanding what the communication process is supposed to be like with the bank. And I will discuss all of that in probably the fourth class. So we've got 4 classes here. We did the first one last Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. You can go back and watch that one. We're doing this one tonight, and I'm going to continue and do this one, the third part of the series, next Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time again as well. So stay in tune, and we'll keep that one going. So I don't really have anything else on that. This is, once again, this is part 2 of a 4-part mini-series. So if you're like, oh man, I still have a lot of questions, I don't understand all there is to know about foreclosures. Well, guess what? You're only halfway through this course. So if you like what you've gotten so far, I would truly appreciate it. Like if you're sitting down like, man, Daniel's giving me all of this. How could I possibly ever repay him for everything he's doing right now? Spread the word. That's the biggest thing that I could ever ask from you. My goal here is to truly educate as many people on the life-changing effects of real estate as I possibly can. It has 100% wholeheartedly, completely changed my life. I've never been shy about my past. I had a very rough childhood. I grew up making a lot of bad decisions, and if it wasn't for real estate, I would likely be dead, in jail, or on drugs. I mean, that's the cliche answer that you hear a lot of people say, but I've lived it long enough to know that my sister's dead, my brother's dead, my cousins are dead, my stepfather's dead. I've seen this throughout my life, and there's nothing that would have changed the path of my life like real estate has. And for me to withhold that type of information for my brothers and sisters who are out there experiencing the same struggles that I've experienced in my life, what type of human being would I be to withhold that information from those that can truly benefit from it but don't have the funds to pay for it? I had to invest $100,000 into my education to receive this type of information. And then once I received it and I had all of my friends and family that I saw still struggling with the same struggles that I've lived with in my life, in the same situations they were in, and I knew that the only thing separating them from me was the knowledge that I had acquired, it made me really question, why in the hell would I ever be so scarcely minded with my knowledge? I am abundant with my knowledge. I give my knowledge away as much as I possibly can because I truly believe that we live in a world of abundance. I don't believe that we live in a world where scarcity is real. Scarcity is a mindset, and we must shift our way away from that. So if you're ever questioning why I'm doing this, that is my number 1 motivator. Number 2 is I am truly looking for some branding on my company. So if you believe in what we have done here and you appreciate what Propelio does for you, invest in a free trial. Go out and check out what Propelio.com can do for you. Download the Propelio mobile app so you can do some driving for dollars. If you want to repay me in some way, spread the love. If you want to repay me in some way, go check out a subscription on Propelio.com. If you want to repay me in some way, you know what? Just say thank you. I'm not really asking for anything, but if you feel it that it's in your heart to give away something, spread the knowledge. Give it to somebody else. Refer Propelio around. Go check out Propelio Academy, or just flat out give me a thank you. Either way around, whenever I see comments like I just saw over there on YouTube where a man says thank you, I made $100,000 just by listening to you run your mouth, Daniel. That right there justifies what I do. I see those types of messages all the time. When I go speak publicly and I have people walking up to me in full-blown tears saying, I would have killed myself if it wasn't for the information you've given me, Daniel, that right there is justifying. I don't need anything else in this world than that. So if you want to pay me, go out there and prove that I didn't waste my time tonight. Go out there, help a seller out of foreclosure, and much love. So I'll stick around. I'll answer some questions. I'll make myself available for about another 10 minutes. So if you've got questions that hit that maybe I didn't cover during this class, I'll either let you know that it's going to be covered in the next class, or B, I'll try and address it for you right here and right now. So I'm watching Facebook. I'm watching YouTube. Boom, boom, boom. Remember, guys, part 3, next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Set your calendars, set your clock, set your alarms. I will be going into the contracting process. I will follow that up with the conversations that I'm supposed to have with the banks and how I'm going to get these properties closed. I'm going to touch base on key negotiation things that I like to move forward with when I am on these calls. And all of that will be broadcast live next Wednesday, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Right now, I had about 60 to 90 people watching. I'd feel really like, you know what, y'all help me out. If y'all can get me up to maybe 100, 120 people watching next time, share the love. You know what? I'm being abundant with the knowledge. How about you try and do the same thing? I got a question here from Maurice Grant. What do you do if bank takes forever to provide a payoff? All right, that is a great question. I'm going to explain to you how I address that in Texas. Texas has Texas Finance Code. I believe it's chapter 300 of the Texas Code. Texas Finance Code states that a lender in the state of Texas has no more than 7 days to return a payoff. So in Texas, I've got 7 days by law. Now, if the foreclosure is further out than 7 days, what I'll do is I will get my attorney on a phone call with them, and I'll get my attorney to use very fancy attorney words that start sounding really nasty, and I'll get them to kind of instigate it. If I'm still struggling to get it, I will take alternative measures towards the end of basically like, here is a potential phone call that could be had with the bank. This is not what I'm telling you to do. This is what I'm saying could be done. Hi, Mr. or Mrs. Banker. I understand that you have a loan on 123 Main Street and your intention is to foreclose on this property in less than 48 hours. We've been requesting from you a payoff on this mortgage for close to a week. You have refused to provide that foreclosure. The seller is prepared, willing, and has already got all the documents drafted to file bankruptcy on this property to prevent the foreclosure of their rightful home. You are really providing a disservice to this homeowner, and I know that this homeowner has absolutely no issues with moving forward with that bankruptcy. Would you like to have a property in bankruptcy holding up your foreclosure process for another 7, 8, 9, 10 months, possibly a year, maybe even 2 years of no more payments coming in from this, you having to walk on eggshells because the property's in pre-foreclosure status? Or would you rather just provide the payoff so that this property can be sold rightfully so as it is currently under contract? I'll have my attorneys have these conversations with the banks. I'll have these conversations with the bank. I'm legitimately trying to get this liens paid off, but they're not giving me any way to do it because they won't tell me what the balance is. It makes no sense. So I don't feel bad getting aggressive with the bank on how I'm communicating with them. Okay. Don Rich has another question here. It says, let me finish up one last thing with Maurice. Another thing that I do look at for a pretty good close guess is I'll have the seller log into their online banking if it's available and then request the payoff right there from the online banking system. And I have found very often that the online banking system will give me a payoff in less than 24 hours. So I do go that route. Okay, Don Rich, you've got a question coming. It says, can we JV on deals with you, or do you refer those out to others like Grant and John? I do not really know what John you're referring to. Grant is very knowledgeable on this subject, and he does do a lot of JV deals, so definitely feel free to reach out to him. But yeah, JVs are very prominent. I would suggest that if you don't have the knowledge to do it yourself, that part of a deal is better than none of a deal. But no, me personally, I do not really JV with people. I do have some very close people that I've known for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years that, will reach out to me with the problem and be like, hey, man, if you can get this funded for me and you can give me some advice on it, I'll split the deal up with you. I've done that from time to time, but I'm not big on JVs, not because I don't believe in them. It's just because I have found more often than not, I end up doing most of the work. And if I'm going to be doing most of the work, then I should be getting most of the fees. And if I'm going to be doing all of that, I might as well do my own deals. I hate saying it that way, If for anybody that's on here that doesn't know, I'm an introvert. I don't really like being out there, and I like my privacy. So, um, yay! All right, let me take a look. See if anything came in over on YouTube. Um, it's almost midnight, and I'm so glad I stayed. Thank you, Dan. You too, Vortex Fighter. I appreciate you sticking around. Um, Jim, I apologize if I made you cry. I wasn't trying to make you cry. Hopefully, it's a good thing. Um, Shan, thank you for sharing. Alex, do you have a video on Propelio about remote investing? There are a lot of them there on YouTube, but none of them specifically in the academy that go into any significant level of depth. I am personally not a remote investor, and I haven't had anybody train on remote investing in the academy. Magnum Bronson, any concerns with the laws against acting as a foreclosure consultant? Thank you for the info, by the way. Great question, Magnum. And that question is one that I addressed in part 1 of this training series. But some states do have very important laws regarding how you approach somebody in foreclosure. You should be very much aware of your state's laws, and some laws do require you to have some type of license or some type of training prior to contacting a homeowner in pre-foreclosure. So make sure you're aware of your state's laws and don't get yourself caught up in some trouble doing some things that your specific state does not believe you should be allowed to do. I've got another question here from Shan. I have a pre-foreclosure that has first position foreclosing. Are you saying that I can negotiate with the second position to reduce the total amount? If there are multiple liens on that property, you most certainly can talk to all junior liens and negotiate a short payoff. I start all of my short payoff negotiations at $500. I do not care if they are owed $50,000. I do not care if they are owed $500,000. I start all of my short negotiations with junior lien positions at $500. Okay, I'm gonna see if I got any questions coming in on YouTube, and then I'm gonna call it a night. I'm gonna go downstairs, I'm gonna get some water, I'm gonna kick back on the couch, I'm gonna play some PlayStation 4, some Ratchet and Clank, and I'm gonna relax and spend some time with my wonderful wife and enjoy the rest of this evening. Jesse Mao asking if probate training is coming soon. Everybody that's out there watching right now, if you want to see some probate training, drop some comments below. I could most definitely train and teach on probates as well. If you want me to do a live training on probate, drop that in the comments below. Let's see here. All right, I don't see any other questions coming in. I'm going to pause for 2 more minutes, and I'm calling it a night. I'm going to go spend some time with my family. Robert Rodriguez, Marcus, Liana, Jesse, Don, Chris, all of y'all. Will there be some lien negotiation classes coming up? I certainly can do that, Chris. Help me remember that. I see you on the feeds all the time. In fact, if you'd like to be a part of that class, I can bring you on with that. But I can bring Melody Medley over here, and I can have her teach just on lien negotiations, because she's a bomb-ass lien negotiator. So probate. I'm seeing a lot of people liking the thought on probates. I will teach probates then. I've actually already got slides done for that. So I'll teach y'all on some probates. Okay? All right. If y'all like this, y'all want this, make sure to share. Make sure y'all let other people know what's going on over here at the Propelio. I appreciate each and every one of y'all. I consider y'all family. The simple fact that y'all are willing to be on a live call at this point in time of night, trying to up your knowledge, tells me that you're in a position where you are serious about your future and you're wanting to change your path. And if I can assist you with that in any way, then I feel like I have fulfilled something in my life that I otherwise could not have fulfilled. Giving back to each and every one of my brothers and sisters that are still out there, you know what? That makes me feel accomplished in life. My sister died when she was 27. My brother died when he was 27. And for the life of me, I thought I'd die by the time I was 27. I'm now 36 years old. And all that to be said, I'm blessed to be here. And if I can share those blessings with each and every one of y'all, I'm going to do it. So thank you all. Much love. I'm out. Thank y'all.